Here's one from Bob, who says, money ain't everything, Mr. Parry. Dr. Jonas Salk gave away his polio vaccine patent to the world as well.
Did he?
Yeah.
What a mug.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. And I have to say that Mr. Southgate, Pep Southgate, will have secured the job, I suppose. But those 6 minutes must have been quite agonising for him, 89 to 95, when a 2-goal advantage, which in fact was my predicted score, if you remember.
Was it?
It was 2-0.
Okay, if you say so, I trust you.
What do you mean if you say so? It's down in writing.
So. Well, I don't remember it being down in writing.
We'll have a look, have a word with our friends at BetSafe, and you'll see that was exactly what I said would happen, okay?
Oh, really? Okay.
You tend to ignore those things, and I get them absolutely right.
I didn't think we predicted the friendly games.
Yes, I do. So anyway, that will have rocked him a little bit.
So when you say it was down in writing, you mean it's on a video?
No, I mean it's down in writing on a response to a question from our friends there, and I said this is what's going to happen.
All right.
Now,
it wasn't right anyway. So what difference does it make? You can't exactly claim that you got the score right up to 89 minutes.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. That's not the game, is it?
Well,
you play the game until the end.
That is one point of view.
Play to the whistle.
Now, what I was going to say was, if young John Stones decided to stay at Everton because it's now managed by Ronald Koeman, who was one of the greatest defenders ever to play football, I think that's a fair assumption.
Well, I think that's probably
I think he was.
Slightly overboard. He was a very good footballer. I don't know if you would call him one of the greatest defenders ever.
Well, he's the highest scoring defender in the history of the game to start off with.
Well, that's not a very good example.
Scored a goal that won the European Cup for Barcelona.
Right.
And he is one of the greatest defenders ever to have played, ever to have put on a pair of football boots.
He's certainly got a very good sort of pedigree as a player.
So if John Stones had stayed at Everton...
why are you speaking in that strange manner?
I'm slowed down a bit.
On the old Red Bull drip.
I haven't been on the Red Bull drip, but the secret mission is wearing me out.
Don't mention that.
It's wearing me down.
Don't mention the secret mission.
I shouldn't mention it, but it's just to explain to our listeners why I am, fighting.
I think you deserve huge praise, and I'm not joking.
That's very kind of you.
You deserve huge praise for being able to come in here and work after the secret mission business.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
but we better not say any more about it.
Don't say anything more about the secret mission.
No.
Anyway, what I'm saying is that I'm sorry, but if you're paid like humongous amounts of money a week, probably 150,000 plus.
Yes.
And your transfer money, how much was it they paid for him? 50, was it?
Well, I think it was 50, wasn't it?
50 million.
I mean, do you remember you used to sing a song?
Yes.
Roughly along the lines of "Money can't buy me stones."
That's right, money can't buy me stones. Yeah, well, it did.
Because you didn't want Chelsea to sign him.
No, but
and you didn't want Manchester City to sign him.
No.
And you used to praise him to the high heavens.
Yeah,
but now you've decided to turn on him because he's left Everton, which I think is slightly tawdry of you.
Not at all. In the end, Everton let him go. Now, what I'm trying to say is that I think if you turn your back on a forward of the calibre of the Spanish boy who fooled him into turning his back.
Yes. What, you mean the guy from Celta Vigo?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Then you're in trouble, I'm afraid. And
he was down on one knee. Well, to be fair,
he's down on one knee, looked over his shoulder, and turned his back.
No, to be fair, he was off balance because he'd been.
Well, he should have been on balance. You're supposed to stand up on your own 2 feet.
Yes, but he was put off balance by the fancy footwork of the Spaniard, and that was why he was going the wrong way, and then he tried to suddenly saw that the ball he was coming inside instead of going outside, and he sort of lost his balance and went down on one knee.
Exactly.
And wasn't really able to do anything.
Exactly.
But it wasn't so much that particular moment. It was the lack of cover generally that England at the back seemed to suffer from.
Probably.
Where you were looking at it, looking at the analysis afterwards, and the Spanish players were just walking through them.
Yeah, well, you may well be right. But anyway, it was a friendly, and that's what friendlies are, and that's what they're all about.
That's what friendlies are for.
And thank goodness
smiling.
Thank goodness there are no more international games now until next March.
Thank goodness for that.
So we can get on with the business of the Premier League.
Yeah, the Premier League returns at the weekend, which will be great news for everybody. Although there's a lot of people...
It might not be great news for Bobcat Bob.
Bobcat Bob, no.
He's going to Goodison. He's going to push the envelope. I wonder if in Liverpool he's got a lot of people on my radar.
He may have a lot of people on his radar, but more importantly than that, there's some games going on tonight. For example, Chile are in action. And
who? Chile?
Chile. And Alexis Sanchez is playing, right?
Yeah.
He's playing Uruguay.
Yeah.
And there's a few Arsenal fans who are a bit worried because he's meant to be injured, but somehow he's managed to turn up for Chile. And so hopefully he gets through the game. Otherwise, he won't be playing for Arsenal the weekend.
Well, that's absolutely true. I see Steven Gerrard's on his way back.
He is, yeah.
And
so is Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
So much for the Great British Invasion.
it always peters out. I mean, they go there when their careers are effectively over, and they pick up like crumbs off the table of their earnings at the end of their career. And good luck to them. Yeah. No problem at all.
Well, everyone's been very nice about Steven Gerrard, and he said
Steven Gerrard's a great footballer.
What do you think he's going to come back to do, though? He's not going to come back to Liverpool, is he?
Well, as a coach, probably.
You think?
Well, sorry, I don't mean probably. As a coach, presumably, if he goes back at all, yes.
Well, I read one version.
He won't go back as a player.
Well, of course not as a player, no. But I mean, I wonder whether he would even go back as a coach at this particular juncture.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I don't know whether Jurgen Klopp and he have any particular affinity.
I totally agree with you.
But it has also been suggested that he might end up with your good mate up in Glasgow, Mr. Brendan Rodgers, because, of course, he got on quite well with him, said some people. But I seem to remember...
I'm telling you.
Was it not Brendan Rodgers that dropped him from the
Stevie Gerrard, what a boy.
But was it not... Was it not Brendan that dropped him from the Real Madrid game in the Champions League, which was the beginning of the end
Yes,
for him?
it was, yeah, I totally agree.
So I don't see that happening either.
And what that was a kind of this town ain't big enough for the both of us type decision, you know what I mean?
Exactly. But their kind of relations were never good after that.
No, they weren't good after that, no. So I don't think that's a goer. I don't know what he'll do.
I think he should come back and help Pep with the England squad, coaching-wise.
Oh, you mean Pep Southgate?
I don't mean
not Pep Guardiola. Pep Southgate, yeah. Well, yeah, maybe he should. I mean, an England squad could not be disimproved by having a guy like Steven Gerrard around, could it?
That's what I mean.
Or Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
Terrific guys, terrific players, terrific character, terrific achievements.
Well, except with
England,
winners. But except, of course, with England, they achieved nothing.
Well, nobody did.
Problem.
Nobody did. That's the problem, yeah. That is the problem.
Now, what about your other mate? I've got a few things to catch up on here football-wise. Yes. Steve Sherwood, it goes down to Swindon. But the terrible news for Swindon Town in the FA Cup is they got beaten and knocked out of it by East Leigh. Who are in the conference, are they not?
Yeah, but they're down my way,
see.
They're down in Hampshire on the coast.
Yeah, I know what East Leigh is. Did you know that it's called the National League now?
Of course I know it's called the National League, because Chester are in it, and I follow my hometown club.
Okay.
Didn't I tell you they played Tranmere last Saturday?
You did.
7,900.
It was 12,000 something, wasn't it?
No, 7,900. A record crowd for the National Conference or whatever.
Well, no, it wasn't
National
apparently.
League.
Somebody else said there was another bigger game.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah, but anyway, so...
Well, I'll tell you who was here on Sunday when I was talking about that. Ray Stubbs, right?
Yes.
Now, Ray Stubbs has a particular interest for two reasons.
Does he?
Firstly, he comes from that part of the world.
Which part of the world?
The Wirral.
Oh, the Wirral,
where
right.
Tranmere
is he a Tranmere fan?
He was Tranmere's goalkeeper.
Ray Stubbs?
Yeah.
Was he?
He was, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was, yeah. He was Tranmere's goalkeeper. And that's how he got into sports reporting in the first place, yeah.
Oh, right.
You didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't.
Isn't that good to have Tranmere's goalkeeper amongst us?
It is.
Yes.
Fantastic.
We've got a picture of it.
When was he Tranmere goalkeeper?
Oh, about 40 years ago or something like that, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, he was.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Excellent.
Doesn't look big enough to be a goalkeeper,
he's a lovely
really,
guy.
does he?
No, he's not huge, is he?
No. Mind you, there have been some small goalkeepers over the years. Les Green of Derby, Derby County, when they won the league under Brian Clough, 5 foot 8 inches tall.
Really?
Yeah. He will form part of my study in how man has got bigger over the last 150 years.
I was going to say, was that because it may have been that in those days, quite a lot of goalkeepers were under 6 foot.
Well, I mean, Neville Southall wasn't huge.
He is now.
That's very harsh. That's very harsh.
Sorry to say that. It just kind of came to me.
I hope he's not listening, because next time we ring him up and come on, I'll say, no, it was...
Well, I'm sure he's not under any illusions.
I mean, I think Nev's about 6 foot, actually, which isn't big for a goalkeeper these days. 6'5" is quite big. Well, the guy who really bloomed, actually, when they retired was Larry Lloyd. I mean, Larry Lloyd went from being a big sort of, not lean and fit centre-half, a big bulking centre-half, to a man the size of a planet. He got so fat that he never saw his toes again 3 years after he retired. Never. I mean, he became huge. He became like... What could he become like? He became like a hot air balloon, which is only fixed to the ground by his ankles and his feet. You know what I mean?
Balloon.
Yeah. Oh, he did. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's still alive. Is Larry Lloyd still alive?
Larry Lloyd, I don't know.
I don't think he is. I think he's dead. Probably his weight had something to do with it.
Well, let's hope you haven't put him into that category if that's not correct.
No, exactly.
By the way, I'm told that Ray Stubbs never made any senior appearances for Tranmere.
No, that can't be true. No. I've spoken to him about it.
He was there for 4 years, but you never actually made any
I've spoken to him about his illustrious career.
You sure he hasn't been exaggerating it?
Well, Ray wouldn't exaggerate, would he? I mean, perhaps I'm assuming things, but no, he was Tranmere's goalkeeper. I mean, imagine saying that. Imagine being one. Oh, well, of course, I used to be a professional footballer. Really? What did you do? I was Tranmere's goalkeeper. I would be quite proud of that.
Well, I would be too, if indeed it was true. James says this: why is Porky turned on Stones? Answer: because he left Everton for a better club. #jealous Porky.
Well, what has Stones won with Manchester City so far?
Well, nothing yet.
Absolutely.
Well, he's only been there a couple of weeks, hasn't he?
I know, but you can see the portent of it all. It could all,
you made that same argument.
Could all turn to ashes in the mouth.
You made that ashes in the mouth. You made that same argument from the opposite perspective when I was talking about Ronald Koeman.
Yes.
Somebody hasn't done anything yet because he's only been there since the beginning of the season.
Well, that's right, 12 games.
This from Jordan, who says, he says, Alexis Sanchez is doing okay. He scored twice tonight. Well, I'm sure he's doing okay, but the point is that there are many Arsenal fans who are concerned that he might exacerbate his injury or do something like that.
I tell you, he's doing okay. Lukaku with the Belgians.
Is he?
They scored 8 goals the other night.
Did they?
And their boss is now Roberto Martinez, who, of course, was Lukaku's boss at Everton.
Yeah.
I think Lukaku's scoring regularly a couple of goals a game for Belgium.
Yes.
The portent of which are very good for Everton, of course, this weekend when we played Bobcat Bob.
Who were Belgium playing?
Belgium were playing... who was it?
It must have been one of the minnows.
Surely. It was a minnow team. Croatia, was it, or something?
Well, it's not Croatia. Croatia are a good team.
Croatia are a good team, I agree.
Slaughtered Northern Ireland last night.
Not only that, Croatia got to the semi-finals of a World Cup.
Yes.
Because I remember their...
Did they not win the Euros once as well?
Did
they not win the Euros one year as well?
Didn't win it, I don't think. Might have got to the final, but they had the very distinctive red and white check shirt, didn't they? No, it wasn't Croatia. Who on earth could it have been? I think we should find out.
Maybe Estonia?
Estonia. Could have been Estonia.
Okay.
But we'll find out because
check it out.
we have the technology here at TalkSport to find out the results of last night's games, believe it or not.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Now, have you seen the times? We're running terribly late. How about this from Daniel, though? Speaking of England, does that champagne you received last night make old Porky the Wally with the bolly?
No, because I don't drink it.
No, but I will.
I can't, because of my heart.
I'll be drinking it, don't worry.
You certainly will.
This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. It's Ask Porky tonight, of course. So we've got loads and loads of terrific questions. A massive sort of bundle, really, of Ask Porky, bigger than ever before. But if you send one in which is particularly poignant or good, you might still make it under the wire. At the two mics, hashtag it Ask Porky. Now, I've got some very good news for Larry Lloyd.
Yes, exactly.
Apparently he's not dead.
I wish to offer an apology to Mr. Larry Lloyd, who is not dead.
No, he's 68 though.
Stone?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry. No.
I don't think it should be too cruel.
No, sorry, I'm not being cruel here. But
he played for both Bill Shankly's Liverpool and Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest.
Oh, he was phenomenal. I mean, how he went from one great successful team to another and then won the European Cup with Brian Clough is amazing. But he did give up on the old exercise routine when he retired as a footballer, and I am delighted to know he is still active and alive. He went out to the Middle East or something, didn't he? And
he may have done, yeah.
Played, did some coaching and all that kind of stuff there. But he was a great player, remember him, and he had a very successful career, and I'm delighted that his life longevity is extending.
Well, Phil says not only is he 68 years of age, but he's actually quite fit now. He says, Porky, you absolute plank. Larry Lloyd is both alive and fit as a fiddle.
Excellent.
Thin as a rake. You idiot.
What do you mean thin as a rake? I've just seen a picture of him.
Well, I don't know if that's a recent picture.
No, exactly.
Now, how about this from Christopher, who says, short keepers, Paul Cooper at Ipswich.
Oh, yeah.
And Sylvester Stallone in Escape to Victory.
Yes.
Well, you can't really count Sylvester Stallone. He's an actor.
Well, he's also a big Everton fan, so he rates.
Yeah, but
rates.
He was in a movie called Escape to Victory. He played a goalkeeper. It doesn't mean that he's an actual goalkeeper.
No, but I mean, he's saying that he was portrayed as a goalkeeper, obviously. Yeah, Paul Cooper, I remember. But Les Green was the one of my day because he was not a big chap at all.
Now, what did you make of the decision to remove Mr. Hart from the goal in England's case with Gareth Southgate and to have him replaced by Burnley's keeper?
Well, I think that was good. And he did all right, didn't he, Heaton?
Well, he did all right till the end.
Yes. Well, I thought it was more the defence at the end than the goalkeeper.
You could probably say it wasn't really his fault, but you know what they say about people who play in goal for England.
Yes.
I mean, if that's your first experience, he's not going to be terribly confident next time he plays, is he?
Well, it depends on his personality and his character. Believe it or not, that goal the second goal that went straight through his legs. I mean, I didn't believe it until I looked at these statistics, but good forwards can actually target getting the ball between the goalkeeper's legs. They know that when a goalkeeper never keeps his legs together. He can't, because the whole idea of a goalkeeper is to spread themselves. Absolutely, and cut off as much of the angle as possible, both on the ground and in the air. So they're always going to open their legs.
And from that distance, basically, keeping it on the ground is going to make it very difficult for him to save.
I totally agree. And so really, when a forward's weighing that up, and he's got options, he's got to make his mind up in 0.3 of a second. What he's basically doing is he's taking a snooker shot, isn't he? because he's potting the ball, so to speak.
Well, I think there's a certain amount of luck going on as well.
No, I don't. I think they.
I mean, Isco is a great player, but I don't know whether he's actually aiming it to go right between the goalkeeper's legs.
Yes, well, who knows? Because it's such an instinctive thing that maybe even they don't know afterwards. Maybe it just flashed through their head that that's where to put it right down the middle or something like that.
And what about the ridiculous mannequin celebration? What did you make of that?
Well, I'm not having to go at people because, I've done things like that in the past, the Cinnamon Challenge, obviously, but I think once it's done, you know what I mean? And
well, as Ian Wright said after the game, he said it doesn't look so funny now.
Well, it doesn't, does it? Because it's all very well doing it on the pitch, when you're celebrating goals, but then when you concede them, you're right, you feel, wow.
Well, somebody tweeted to me just after the game finished, maybe they should have spent more time rehearsing their defending rather than rehearsing their mannequin celebration.
I think that's a bit harsh. I mean, we all like a little bit of a laugh here and there, and they were really trying to bring a bit of brevity to the occasion.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, we'll come back to Gareth Southgate in a minute, because I want to bring something else up to you, which is the picture on the front page of a newspaper this morning, which carried the story yesterday about Wayne Rooney going in and having a bit of a good time at somebody's wedding. But the picture that you said they didn't have, because he looked quite well,
no, I said
the one they now have this morning.
No, I didn't say they didn't have it. I said,
well, they hadn't
published it. Yeah.
So they've either saved it or published it today.
Yes.
Where he does look a little bit more the worse for wear than he did yesterday.
Look, the guy had been released from the squad. He wasn't required to stay in training for the Spain game, which happened last night, of course. And went off and had a few sherbets by the look of it. So it doesn't make him a villain, does it?
Doesn't make him a villain at all.
No.
Just pointing out that's the picture that we didn't see yesterday, but we now are seeing.
Yes,
and there's another couple of pictures inside.
Are there?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Pages 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Parties until 5 a.m.
Yeah. Well, you do that sometimes.
Yeah, well, I'm not an international footballer.
No, of course not. No, I accept that point.
Well, I also work till 5 a.m. sometimes. I mean, in fact, this time last week, we were reporting on one of the biggest political sort of earthquakes of the entire history of the world, where Donald J. Trump became the president of America.
Yes, that's right.
And we worked till 6.
Yes, that's true.
When there was no bladderation involved. So we'll be talking to our good friend Paolo over in Hollywood a little bit later on. Sandro Minetti over in Hollywood.
I wondered who Paolo was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sounds a bit like Sandro.
Yes, there's a picture inside of the Roo, as he's known to his friends, just sitting on a couch, having a sherbet, and two young ladies draping themselves around him as they would, because they want their picture taken with Wayne Rooney. That doesn't mean to say there's anything improprietous going on.
No, not at all. Yeah. Do you think they bought that book of yours, if they're that big fans of Wayne Rooney?
Well, they might have done, What was
it called again?
It was called Rooney Tunes.
Yeah, okay.
Brilliant book.
Are you going to update it when he retires?
Probably not.
No. Okay.
No, I'm sure the demand is there.
Now, I've got a surprise for you. Mm-hmm. Because remember I told you last week that I'd had to go and see somebody. I had a meeting down on the south coast in a very nice part of Bexhill called the Delaware Pavilion.
Oh, yes.
Which is a very lovely
sort of all that about
Art Deco meeting, but it was sort of financial business, that kind of thing, tax time and all that. Anyway, there was an exhibition there by a very famous sort of modern artist called Peter Blake.
Oh, yes, Peter Blake. Yeah, I know of him. Didn't he do some Beatles covers and that sort of stuff?
He did a lot of album covers, and I picked you up a little trinket from it.
Yes?
It's a piece of Beatles postcard of his work.
Hey, that's really nice. Thank you. Nice? Is this for me?
It is for you, yeah.
That's very nice. Thank you very much indeed.
I mean, the real one is about sort of album cover size.
Yes.
But they weren't selling that, and I probably wouldn't have bought it anyway.
I think these are the pictures that were inside the White Album cover.
They might be.
They're not the Let It Be ones. The Let It Be ones were a stage on from this. But that's very nice. We're going to take a picture of this and put it out on Twitter. Thank you very much indeed for thinking of me.
Not at all. My pleasure.
Excellent.
Now, we've got lots of Ask Porkies coming up. None of them, of course, are anything to do with the secret mission.
Well, I can't talk about the secret mission, I'm sorry.
And how about this one
here? Extremely exhausting. It's tiring, but I'm doing my duty for my country. And I'm not going to complain about it or use it as an excuse to say that, I'm running out of energy or anything like that. Even though only 1/3 of my heart works, I'm still prepared to put the effort in 24 hours a day.
Absolutely right.
Okay.
Now, here's one from somebody calling himself Lacking Cohesion on Twitter, who says, Professional hobgoblin Porky calling European Cup winner Larry Lloyd overweight and dead. How's the glass house, Porky?
Oh, look, I'm really sorry about that. Larry Lloyd is very much alive, I'm delighted to say, and his longevity is assured. And, I remember him as a great footballer. Unfortunately, he had a red shirt on, not a blue one in those days, but we had a pretty good team in those days as well.
Yes.
So, no problem.
Stephen says this, the plank has done it again. Mike Parry's killed off Larry Lloyd and he's alive and well, 68 years of age.
Indeed. And anybody could have made the same mistake.
And according to the Postie in Brum, he was at Tamworth helping Gary Mills out. He also owned a pub, and he left Tamworth FC to run a bar in Spain.
Yes, that's right. I knew he ran a pub because I think either I went in there or a mate of mine went in there to see him, and that's when we realised.
In Tamworth?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, what a size he was. Because remember, I used to work on the Birmingham Mail.
Yes.
Which is the West Midlands. And Tamworth was definitely one of our areas where we had a district edition. And I'm pretty sure I must have gone in there and done a story about him or something.
Really?
In his pub. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, that would have been a while ago, I suppose.
Yes, it would have been. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Here's one from Becky, who says, William Fatty Foulkes, listed at 23 stone, played in goal for Sheffield United and Chelsea in the 1900s.
Yes, he's listed as the fattest. Yeah, he's listed as the fattest footballer ever.
Really?
He's in the Guinness Book of Records. Yeah, as the fattest man ever to play football.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. How much it says he weighed?
It said that he weighed 23 stone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was enormously big and heavy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember a guy called Harry Cripps who played for Millwall. And I think Millwall beat Everton in about the fifth round of the FA Cup in something like 1976 or 7 or 8. No, it wasn't 7. We had a good run that year. It might have been 78 or something like that, or 75 or something like that. And he was known as Beer Belly Cripps. I mean, he had a huge, but he was good enough to score against Everton that day, Goodison Park.
There's a picture of Larry Lloyd now, apparently.
Oh,
so he's lost quite a bit of weight.
Let me just see that. Wait a minute.
He's got a white beard. Like you, actually.
Dark suit, looking very dapper. Yeah, I have to say. But it does say on the board behind him, for some unknown reason, I believe in miracles.
Yeah.
So it was a miracle loss of weight for Larry Lloyd.
Well,
Larry, if you're listening now, and I know that lots of people overseas do listen, if you're still overseas,
that's from Phil.
I am delighted to see you in such great shape. You're a credit to your profession, and it was an honour to have written a story about you being a publican in Tamworth. Sorry, what's
this
your problem?
Is a backtracking scenario.
Not at all.
Anyway, listen, we've got lots going on. We're going to talk to Simon Johnson coming up very shortly. He's
Indeed.
at Wembley watching England against Spain. He can tell us a bit about Gareth Southgate's demeanour and how disappointed all the fans were when they lost the 2-goal lead and ended up drawing 2-2 in the final seconds of the game. This is Talk Sport.
They call it madness. Madness. Madness, they call it madness.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. Quite a lot of tweets to read out for you. Rob says this: National League record attendance league game, 11,085. Bristol Rovers against Alfreton at the Memorial Stadium in April 2015.
Okay, very good indeed.
Quite a few people pointing out that Ray Stubbs was never a goalkeeper, and in fact he likes to describe himself as the worst left-back ever to play for Tranmere.
No.
But Rob says that, and John says Ray Stubbs was a left-back, not a goalkeeper, and made 0 first-team appearances. Thoroughly nice bloke, though.
Oh, okay. And do you know what? I think I've got him confused with a photographer at the Daily Express who was Tranmere's goalkeeper.
Really?
Yeah.
What was his name? Was it Ray as well?
No.
Was it Stubbs?
No.
Well, why would you think it was the same guy?
I don't know. But he definitely had a connection with. He was definitely a photographer at the Express, and I went off and did a job with him somewhere in Mallorca or something. We were chasing Princess
Pushy.
Princess Pushy's husband. You know, the guy with the beard.
Yeah.
He had a villa there, and she
the Duke of Kent.
Yeah, and she'd been seen in the company of another gentleman, and we sort of went out there.
Prince Michael of Kent, actually, wouldn't it?
Prince Michael of Kent, that's right, it was, yeah. And I remember on the plane on the way over him telling me that, he'd started life as a professional footballer and was Tranmere's goalkeeper.
Right.
But that would have been in the sort of 70s, I think. So there we are. So Ray, sorry I got you wrong there, mate. You were a left back. That's great. And I'm sorry you never made it through to the Tranmere first team.
I'll have to go back through the list of goalkeepers to see if I can find it.
Indeed, yeah, that's a good idea. That, because I would recognise his name. He's a nice lad, yeah, good lad, yeah. But anyway, anybody can make a mistake like that.
Very simple.
I'm sure that
to do Larry Lloyd and Ray Stubbs in the same section.
Well,
quite remarkable.
Yes,
Matt says Big Stuart Tomlinson left his goalkeeping position at Burton Albion and went over to the States to be a wrestler in the WWE.
Really?
Yeah.
There was some Fulham footballer, wasn't there, who left Fulham, went over to America to take one kick a game at $1 million a week.
Oh, he was the guy...
sorry, $1 million a year.
He was the guy that went to the NFL, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah, absolutely, yeah. yeah.
Was he not Scottish, the first guy that did that?
He might have been. Might have well been. Yeah. Might well have been, yeah. Anyway, so, don't dwell on this Larry Lloyd thing. We've got that all sorted. We've got that sorted.
Yes, we've made apologies for that.
Few people are referring to it. But,
well, people are just saying that, it's great news that he's alive and
well, exactly.
And well.
Of course it is. Of course it is. That's always good news, isn't it, when somebody's still alive and functioning.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's good. Now then,
all I can get here is a list of Tranmere Rovers players with more than 100 appearances. Which I presume wouldn't be your guy.
No, that's definitely not it at all. Now then, what I was going to say is,
I don't know, what were you going to say?
Where did this mannequin thing start? Because I think I saw a couple. Yeah, mannequin.
I don't know.
I think I saw a few people from TalkSport actually doing it this morning.
Oh,
Did
really?
you see a little video or something? Or?
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
Oh, it could have been a couple of days ago, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I presume somebody must have started doing it somewhere, but I didn't notice Jamie Vardy doing it in the Premier League. I could be wrong.
No.
But I've not seen anybody doing it up to now.
Yes.
But suddenly everybody seemed to know exactly what to do. They'd obviously choreographed it.
Yeah.
They all... I mean, it's like playing statues when you're a kid, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is,
Music stops, you stand still.
That's right. These things either take off or they don't, right? Remember the bucket challenge? What was that called?
Ice bucket challenge.
Ice bucket challenge. Yeah. I mean, that's okay if you get in on the first 12 hours. But after that, I'm afraid, forget it, because it's...
Well, also, that was the kind of thing they did for charity as well. You nominated somebody else, and then they sort of did it for charity.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Raised money for it and stuff.
Yeah, okay. And what was the other one? Yeah, I know the other one.
Well, there was a cinnamon challenge, which you did. Lots of other people did as well.
That's still going on, I think. I think people still do it, because the thing with the cinnamon challenge is it can turn out a multiplicity different number of ways, you know what I mean? Whereas if you're just doing the old, what's this called again, the mannequin?
Well, it's a mannequin, and what you're doing is basically...
It's freezing.
Standing still.
Yeah, that's
not,
what...
You don't have to do very much.
That's what I mean. And with the cold bucket one, the only thing that can turn out there is you put an ice bucket over your head with ice and water in it, and you scream.
Yeah.
And again, that's about the same. But I do remember that some publicity-seeking individual, and I can't remember who it was now, tried to invent the wake-up selfie. And so the idea is that you keep your phone by your bed, you know what I mean? And the first thing you do in the morning, instead of reaching for the alarm or the tea's made or getting out of bed, you reach for the selfie.
Or whoever you happen to be in bed with.
Exactly, absolutely, yeah. You reach for the phone and you actually take a selfie.
Right.
And it just, I mean, how could that take off? How could that possibly be interesting?
I can't imagine. I'm just reading here that the mannequin challenge is a viral internet video trend.
Oh, yeah.
Where people remain frozen in action like mannequins while a video is recorded.
Yes.
Usually with the song Black Beatles by Ray Shremmerd playing in the background.
Who?
Ray Shremmerd.
Ray Shremmerd.
Shremmerd. Sremmurd.
Have you ever heard of this guy?
I've never heard of him.
No, I've never heard of him either.
I'm sure that John can find the song, though, so we can maybe play it.
Yes.
Believed to have been started by Mark Richter in Los Angeles, California.
Richter.
On October the 26th, 2016.
Ooh.
So I'm not quite
2016?
Sure. Yeah, well, this year.
Yeah, but what month?
October 26th.
Oh, so it's been going for a while then. Month.
Oh, no.
Going for 3 weeks.
No,
going for a month. Going for 3 weeks.
We go for a very short period of time. So it's quite unusual. But it's been done by quite a few American footballers.
Yeah.
I think this may be the first time it's been done by the England football team.
Yes,
it's
as
been
far
done by
as you
Marcus
know.
Rashford and Jesse Lingard, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Manchester United players.
Okay.
The videos have been posted also by Michelle Obama. United States gymnasts as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been going for a bit.
Sure. It's always great if you can get a sort of big-name celeb on side, can't you? Then it sort of justifies it, makes it real.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
So, I mean, for Jamie Vardy to do it, it's probably quite cool, actually. But it's just unfortunate that England didn't win the game.
Yes. No.
The gloss has rather been taken off it.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
What about this midnight sex ban for Pep's City Stars? Not, of course,
Sorry. Before I go any further, a piece of real information news here coming in on my magic machine.
Your magic machine?
Yeah. Swansea City are set to appoint former Coventry defender Paul Williams as Bobcat Bob's assistant.
Does he have a connection with Swansea?
Well, I'm just reading it here. The 45-year-old who has been coaching England's youth side since 2015 will finalise the move today. So Bobcat Bob got an assistant called Paul Williams.
So he's got a new... It's better than Hank Williams, I suppose.
That's right, yeah, Hank Williams, yeah. His name was Williams, Bob.
Right.
You mean Hank Williams?
Now,
No.
Scott has said, speaking of Coventry, what about David Icke? He's an ex-Coventry keeper.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Yeah. David Icke, who now makes absolute fortune.
Yes, that's right.
Talking a load of old Bloxios to people in large arenas around the country.
Yeah, he does.
Telling them the royal family
We
are
should
actually...
try that,
Well, we have tried it.
I know, yeah, we should try bigger arenas, get more money.
Well, maybe you don't need any more money.
Oh, dear.
People are already moaning about the fact that you're making too much money.
Well, that's outrageous.
Yeah, they are.
It's outrageous. I mean, that's class envy.
Some guy tweeted today, he said, I've got a good mind to start trying to, encourage pirate copies of the video, the DVD that we've got on sale, so that Porgy doesn't get any richer.
That is very harsh. It's only effort and reward. In fact, actually, somebody was trying to wind me up by saying, I'm not paying £13.49 for your latest DVD, Porky. I can get one down the market for $3.49.
Yes.
So somebody's already pumping out the old bootlegs.
Same place you get my old shirts, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anyway, so have you seen this story on the back page of the Daily Mail? Apparently, sex after midnight, if you're a Manchester City player, is verboten. No. You're not allowed to have sex after midnight.
This doesn't sound like a very credible story, this, to me. Let me have a look here. Well, sex after midnight is off limits for Manchester City players under manager Pep Guardiola. Sami Nasri moved on loan to Sevilla in the summer.
Yeah.
Revealed a strict rule designed to curb muscle injuries. Players are allowed to stay at home the night before matches at the Etihad, but have been told they must not have sex once the clock strikes 12. I mean, it's so ludicrous, isn't it?
Why is it ludicrous?
Well, because, A, it's a ridiculous, sweeping generalisation against
because
two dozen different men whose bodies react in two dozen different ways.
Because football managers have many times said that actually they don't like their players to have sex too close to a game.
It's a gross intrusion.
It can make their legs weak.
No, rubbish.
It can.
It's a gross intrusion into the personal lives and habits of the footballer and his family.
No, I don't think so.
Of course it is.
How is it any more of a gross invasion than telling you what to eat, which is what they get told
and
as well?
thirdly,
you get told what to eat.
Thirdly, hang on, the most important issue here is it's totally unenforceable. What do? You're supposed to bring a form in the next day and either admit to teacher that you've sinned or say to teacher, I've been a good boy.
Well, I don't know, but
ridiculous.
I mean, I would have thought if you're working for a club like Manchester City and your boss is Pep Guardiola and you're being paid an awful lot of money, you're going to do what you're told.
Well, you can't check out whether you are or not unless you've got a camera in the bedroom, maybe not even the bedroom. Maybe a camera, on the stairs. maybe a camera in the laundry room at the back, just in case you might be having
on top of the washing machine.
On top of the washing machine, you might be having extramarital affairs and all this kind of stuff. Huh?
Yeah. Well, you might not even be.
I'm not suggesting any Manchester City player is, by the way. That was just a generalisation. You know what I mean?
But I mean, they're allowed to stay at home apparently the night. This is the night. Specifically though, this is the night before a football match. So I presume they're not allowed out. They stay at home, and at 12 o'clock, that's when the shutters come down.
Yes, well, I think it's ludicrous, and it's a gross intrusion into the privacy of an individual. Every individual acts differently. I mean, George Best used to have...
Yeah, but George Best was playing football in a very different era.
He certainly was, but I tell you what, it was our great mate, Ross, who died, unfortunately, a few years ago.
Ross?
He's on the West Coast. No, he's... He became William Hickey on the Express, and he was on the West Coast when we were in New York.
Oh, Ross Benson.
Ross Benson, yeah, a lovely fellow, big, tall guy, very handsome. Went out with Joan Collins for a bit, long flowing hair in LA. And he was in Tramp one night with George Best because he'd written a book about him or something like that. Right. And also Ross was as good looking as George Best. So
he was sort of James Bond type guy.
He was. They used to sort of pick up ladies together if you see them in pairs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Ross told me at 6 a.m. one morning, he said, I've had enough, George. I can't go on. He said, I'm going to a football match this afternoon anyway. He says, I've got to take, a friend of mine with a football match. And George said, hey, that's right, I'm playing in it. It was Manchester United versus Fulham.
I'm sure that's a true story.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a very true story. But it's very different now. I mean, they now have macrobiotic diets. They have special, drinks they're allowed to drink and other drinks they're not allowed to drink. So the idea that they would enforce this, I think, is not surprising at all. Steve points out Lawrence Tynes was the Scottish kicker that went to the NFL and won the Super Bowl with the New York Giants.
Oh, well done.
So he was Scottish. There
Excellent,
we are. Lots more to come, including a conversation next with Simon Johnson from The Standard, who was at Wembley last night. It's Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It's Ask Porky tonight, of course. So if you've got any questions that need answering, if you've got any problems that need solving, here is the place to do it. You can tweet it at the two mics and hashtag it Ask Porky. Christopher says, Porky killing off Larry Lloyd. Was he confusing him with the bloke who clung from the clock face in that silent black and white film?
No, not at all.
That was Harry Lloyd.
That was Harry Lloyd. It was, yes, you're absolutely right, yeah. No, it wasn't at all. It's just that Larry Lloyd did acquire a reputation for expanding rather rapidly and grossly in his post-football career. Delighted now to say he's gone back the other way.
He has indeed. Yep. Now, Simon Johnson from The Standard was at Wembley last night. Many of you were there as well with him. We're going to find out from him what the atmosphere was like, what Pep Southgate was like, and what the players were like after the game, because they thought they were going to have a 2-0 win. It ended up being a draw. Simon, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Morning. How you doing, chaps?
Very well indeed, thank you.
Very well indeed. Now, pretty obviously, most of the papers this morning have got a headline "Dummies" with a picture of the celebration from James Vardy's goal, where they do now look rather stupid, having lost the 2-0 lead and drawn 2-2.
Yeah, it was a classic case of a celebration coming back to haunt them because they defended in similar fashion, unfortunately. Players just sort of standing still, letting runners get in behind them in the dying minutes, and basically we threw away a golden opportunity to beat Spain. Yes, a weakened Spain, but I just think for the confidence of the team, sort of an ending what has been a overall disappointing year on a high, we wasted a great opportunity there. With 2 goals up with a few minutes to play, we should have seen that game out. And unfortunately, like I said, they defended a bit like they celebrated. They stood still and let the runners go.
Well, indeed, that was a very good analogy. That they did look a bit like statues, didn't they?
Yeah, it's really frustrating because it's almost like they haven't learnt their lessons. I remember being, for example, in France in the dying minutes of the Russia game, the opening group game of Euro 2016, a game which we bossed, but we conceded a sloppy late goal. I think instead of sort of being streetwise and keeping possession, we tried to push for a second. And in many ways, last night was a similar story, really. We were actually looking for a third goal when many teams would just sort of be master of the dark arts, just run the ball in the corner, do all that kind of stuff, and just see the game out.
Although would they not have been a bit sort of criticised for that as well, given it was a friendly, if they'd suddenly sort of shut up shop and I don't know, just stopped entertaining people? Because it was quite an entertaining game.
Yeah, it was, and yeah, I mean, it's within reason. I mean, if there's 15 minutes to go and they were doing that, you'd be a bit concerned. But we're talking, 89th, 90th minute here, and the 95th, 96th minute here. It's just very. You can probably sense my frustration.
Yes.
But one of the reasons why is we all had to rewrite our copy, of course.
Well, that's right. Last minute, you were there on the old board, on the old, knock it out and all that. They'd probably written the headlines from your final draft already and had to change all that. They would not have been happy bunnies.
Simon's got a bit more time. He's worked for the Standard, isn't he?
Well, it doesn't matter. You've got a website and things to do with these days, mate.
Exactly. I was all upbeat for our website, and then I had to be all doom and gloom. And the fans, to be fair, a lot of them actually left. They assumed the win was in the bag.
Exactly. You could see all the empty seats behind the Spanish team celebrating. Simon, what I have to say is the one big plus for me out of the game, well, there were several big pluses, but Jamie Vardy, absolutely terrific. I just don't know why he wanted to take out Azpilicueta's leg when he didn't need to. But, I mean, wasn't he great? Wasn't he man of the match?
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah,
reluctantly? He obviously doesn't agree. You can disagree with Porky, Simon. Don't be bullied by him.
I would never dream of being bullied by either of you two.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But, yeah, look, he won the penalty and scored, and obviously scored his first goal. He'd gone 14 games without a goal for club or country. So I can see why he was given man of the match, because obviously he's involved both goals, but I thought overall his play was not good enough. I think I'd rather see Harry Kane or Daniel Sturridge up front. He's a great option off the bench, don't get me wrong. I think he's a good plan B if we want to use his pace off the bench, but I don't think he carries enough quality at this level. But
I think that's miserable. I think that's a miserable interpretation of what he did tonight. I think what was in his head was, Harry Kane's not here, and I earn twice as much as Harry Kane, so I'll show him who's worth the money.
I mean, certainly his headed goal was pretty fantastic.
Terrific.
But I mean, we had a couple of quite a lot of people calling up TalkSport after the game, of course. And one point was made quite well, I thought, by one of the fans who said the point about playing a team like Spain is that Spain are coming onto England, so they're leaving all this space at the back for Jamie Vardy to run into. But in most internationals, most teams that play England are playing a very, very tight defensive and midfield game, and so they can't get in there.
Yeah, very good point.
Thank you.
Good point. That Jamie Vardy is, and I sort of actually think that Arsenal have probably been done a favour in terms of missing out on signing him, because most of the time Arsenal have to cope with stubborn defences that sit deep, which totally goes against Vardy's style of play. But in many ways, Vardy wasn't the only one that benefited from England for once having a team that sort of had a go at England rather than the other way around. We do struggle to break teams down, but last night we had a lot more space to play with in possession. And I thought Adam Lallana, before he sadly picked up a knock, was a real quality, and I thought Jesse Lingard then sort of stepped up after Lallana went off and sort of continued that creative flair. But I think we have to bear in mind, though, and just put into context, though, how many big-name Spain players were missing. There were a number missing through injury, plus likes of Isco and Alvaro Morata were left on the bench, and the moment they came on, it looked like Spain sort of went, right, we've stopped kidding around now, we mean business, and they really started to show their quality, and that there is still, as Southgate admitted afterwards, there's a long way to go for England to become a top team.
Sure. I mean, he talked about taking over from Sam Allardyce without mentioning his name as a sort of steadying the ship exercise. But, I mean, it wasn't really a steadying the ship exercise, was it? I mean, Sam Allardyce had played one game, won one game. Southgate comes in, was expected to win all 4 games, or certainly 3, and he's only won 2 and drawn the other 2. But, I mean, presumably, there really isn't anyone else in the frame for the job at this moment, is there?
Not really, no. I think the FA have decided that Southgate ticks all the boxes for many reasons. Of course, he's been within their bosom, as it were, for the last 3 years as England under-21 coach. He's been sort of groomed as a potential England coach for the future, and I'll have to say he's come across very well in dealing with the media, which is actually one of the hardest parts of the job. Now, of course, if results go wrong, then he'll see the other side of the media, and it can be quite a sort of tough thing to be on the end of. But I think he's done pretty much as could be expected. Importantly, we're top of our World Cup qualifying group, and as you said, the steadying the ship really is more to do with sort of the nature of Allardyce's high-profile departure. Plus, we're obviously still recovering from the shambolic European Championships, but I think he's under no illusions, if he does get the job as expected, that there's still an awful lot of hard work to do next year and building up to the next World Cup. But at least he's got 18 months now to sort of stamp his authority on the side and start sort of making more of an impact on what he wants to do when the fixtures start all over again in March.
That's right. Now, what about the John Stones conundrum?
Yes.
The conundrum being, is the boy going to develop and be a Franz Beckenbauer who's going to walk the ball out of defence, or should he just, be Stonewall Jackson and just defend and not turn his back on players like he did tonight?
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be a weekly debate, doesn't it? Because every single game he plays in, there's the sublime, and then there's the ridiculous, and it is. And I sort of do wonder whether playing 3 at the back is almost the way to go for England. It certainly, obviously, he plays that there for his club, Man City. He reminds me in many ways, and he probably won't appreciate this comparison, but he reminds me in many ways of a certain David Luiz at Chelsea. Yeah. In his ability on the ball, can't be questioned, but he almost needs that added protection either side, just as Luiz has benefited from since Antonio Conte has moved to 3 at the back. And I do think, you look at the kind of squad we have with Danny Rose and Kyle Walker that can play as the wing-backs, that you almost look at that squad and go, it is the new sort of a fancy system that everyone's getting all excited about, but we do actually have the players that can play in it. And John Stones, I think we do need to sort of put our trust in him, but he does need looking after, and I just think a three.
Well, we keep getting told that now that he's under Pep Guardiola's kind of guidance and mentoring, that he's going to get better and he's going to get to become a superstar player. But I mean, every game he plays for England, he makes a mistake, and it may be unfair to blame him for all the mistakes, but he does seem to make them, doesn't he?
Ronald Koeman would have taught him something, wouldn't he, Simon? Considering Koeman was one of the greatest defenders ever to have graced football.
You've already mentioned that.
Yes.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Koeman's record, for example, at Southampton defensively, Southampton were a very hard team to break down.
Wasn't very good at Stamford Bridge the other week,
was
was
it?
it?
I was about to say, up until the trip to Stamford Bridge, Everton boasted, I think, the second best defensive record in the league.
Yes.
But then Guardiola, his strength is, of course, is sort of having ball-playing defenders. So... Yes, you could argue that he might have benefited if he'd stuck around at Everton, but then Man City are going for Champions Leagues, they're going for Premier Leagues.
Yeah.
So he's actually going to benefit greater, you think, from actually being tested week in, week out when trophies are on the line.
Well, you would hope so, but you wouldn't want to have him necessarily in a Champions League final, dribbling the ball out of the box against Barcelona, would you?
No, it might lead to a few Man City fans having a coronary or two, but but it's not dull. And let's be honest, we often moan, don't we, that English players don't have any flair and technique. So we can't have it both ways when we have a player that's got a bit of that, but obviously it sometimes gets him into trouble if he takes a risk or two.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's not really yet in the pantheon of fantastic defenders who've got great skills going forward, to me anyway, but that's another story. What about the Pep Southgate situation? And is he going to get the job, like, literally within the next couple of weeks or what?
All indications are that it should be wrapped up by the end of the month. He certainly wants to get it sorted quickly. I think the FA, whilst they're going through the motions a little bit of having a consultation process, a recruitment process, but really that I can't see anyone else in the frame. The kind of men that have been mentioned. Managers like Eddie Howe, I think he sort of committed to Bournemouth. Arsene Wenger wants to sign a new deal with Arsenal. And I think, like I said earlier, Southgate has shown enough for us to give him a chance. And I do agree that there should be a break clause included, which is something that Southgate, I think, is prepared for as well, because we don't want to make the mistake that we have done in the past and giving these ludicrous 4-year contracts.
No, we really don't.
Quite right.
We've got to let you go there, Simon. Sorry,
yes,
we're running out of time. Simon Johnson there from The Standard. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Porky Vision, of course, tomorrow, and then the Porky Quiz on Thursday night. So
yes.
It's another very, very packed week.
Oh, absolutely.
By the way, I think John has managed to source that music for the Mannequin Challenge.
Oh, okay.
Would you like to hear it?
Yes, please.
Ear drummers backwards.
Yeah, good.
Here's what it sounds like.
Okay.
That girl is a real crowd, please. Small world, all her friends know of me. Young bull living like an old geese. Quick release the cash, watch it fall slowly. Frat girl still trying to get in. Haters
what do you think of that?
For whatever reason.
A bit repetitive, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit of a dirge.
Dirge, yeah. Yeah.
Bit of a dirge, not over impressive. Now, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about, right?
Yeah, go on.
At the moment, of course, because of the secret mission during the day.
Yes, which we can't mention.
Mustn't mention that.
No.
And the TalkSport programme, which I'm doing with you now, into the early hours,
yes.
Very happy to do and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
My sleep pattern is at a premium. It's at a premium.
Right. Well, it must be quite disturbed, your sleep pattern.
Well, that's right. So I decided to do a bit of research today. I had just 10 minutes today. That was all to myself, 10
minutes?
So I did a bit of research into, where sleep can be improved and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The best country in Europe for sleep is the Dolce Vita country.
The Dolce Vita country?
Yes.
You mean Italy?
Of course.
You mean Italians sleep more than everybody else?
They sleep more than anybody else. It could be something to do with the good wine, the hearty food, and the very pleasant temperature of their country.
Well, I mean, they're certainly one of the more healthy nations, aren't they, as well, with all the olive oil and stuff that they imbibe. But I'm surprised they sleep more than the Spanish.
Yeah, it says Italy has emerged as the best-rested country in Europe in an international study which found that worn-out Britons were the most underslept, OK?
Is that right?
The most underslept.
That doesn't surprise me.
It says we toss and turn into the early hours. Yeah. We check our phones. We fret about work. Italians, after clearing their heads with a passeggiata.
What is that?
Passeggiata.
What is that?
Well, I don't know. You tell me. You're supposed to know.
Well, why am I supposed to know that?
Oh, sorry. A passeggiata is an evening stroll after dinner.
Okay.
Fall straight to sleep and slumber soundly until their first espresso some 7 hours later.
Well, I bet that depends on which part of Italy you live in, though. Do you remember when they had the situation, I think it was in Rome, where they wanted to put a load of traffic cameras in, and they were not just filming the speed of the cars, but they were going to be filming the cars as they were driving into the city. Yeah. And there was a mass kind of protest about it, because basically so many men and women were driving in cars that they shouldn't have been in together.
Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
Is that right?
Because there was so much Rogerisation going on.
Afternoon Rogerisation.
Yeah, and they said this is not something that we want to be available to either the either to the government or to the local authorities.
Well, it's funny.
Because we don't want to be pictured with people.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because they sleep soundly until their first espresso, but then later in the day they also fit in a riposo.
Oh, yeah.
You know what riposo is?
Bene means a little rest, doesn't it?
Riposo is the half-hour afternoon nap to help digest lunch and recharge the batteries for the evening. Yeah. So you're suggesting that riposo is also Rogeroso.
It might be Rogeroso, exactly right,
yeah.
Well, they're a very romantic nation, the Italians.
Imagine if you could do that. Imagine if, the normal lifestyle here was riposo, and you could sort of, just wander...
What do you mean, imagine if you could do that?
Well, no.
Why couldn't you do it?
Well, because not many people in Britain get a half-hour rest after their lunch, do they? They're normally expected back to work. You know what I mean?
In the Fleet Street days, shall we say, without giving too much away, there were quite often assignations made at lunchtime.
This is absolutely true. No, this is absolutely true.
And you should know that better than anybody, because I'm sure you must have made a few of them.
Oh, I did.
And then you come back to work afterwards.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, in fact, there was one particular woman whose name shall remain completely and utterly nameless, but was not a million miles away from someone we've already mentioned on this show, who used to come back from said assignations. Yes. You could always tell because her hair was never properly set the same way that it had been in the morning.
Right, okay.
I.e., it was kind of bed hair.
Well, I used to get over that by keeping it...
You would have to worry, would you?
Well, not my hair. I'm talking about the person I was with. I used to keep a store of waterproof hair covers. What are they called? you know what I mean? Huh?
Why? What were you doing?
Well, no, I wasn't doing anything. But when they went for a shower afterwards, they didn't want to get their hair wet because it took too long to dry.
Oh, I don't think this girl, I don't think she had time for a shower.
Oh, no. We always ended up with a shower. And you know what I'm talking about.
You always ended up in a shower?
Yeah.
Well, how much time did you have?
Well, I was the boss, so I used to be able to draw up the schedule and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is, I used to nick
shower caps.
Shower caps.
The mind boggles.
I used to nick shower caps from every hotel I ever stayed in.
Specific. Just keep a store of them.
Yeah. Specifically.
Well, where did you go then?
Sorry.
Well, where did you go for these?
The Tower Hotel. On the other side of the Tower
So you
Bridge.
literally carried shower caps around with you?
Well, yeah. I mean, if I knew that I was having an assignation...
Well, why did you just use the one that was already in the hotel?
Well, because sometimes they weren't. I don't know why. Sometimes you just, certain hotels didn't carry them.
So you carried around these little shower caps with you?
Yes, I did, yes.
How bizarre.
Yeah, well, no, it's not really, because, the lady would always say, oh, God, I can't get my hair wet, because if they got their hair wet, they couldn't get it dry again.
Yes.
If they had,
shoulder-length
hair.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you suddenly turn up at work... I mean, it's a bit different nowadays, because everyone belongs to a gym. So you could turn up at work now with wet hair, and everyone assumes you've been to the gym.
But there weren't gyms around
in those days. You didn't go to the gym.
No, you didn't.
And if you came back with wet hair and it wasn't raining, everybody knew you'd been for a
that's right.
A bit of a Rogerisation session.
That's right.
And you had a shower.
Yeah, but I mean, look, this is a family show, and I'm telling you about sleep, not the afternoon Rogerisation.
The riposo.
So it says the riposo, half-hour afternoon nap to help digest lunch. Okay.
Right.
Now the study of 13 countries was conducted by the health insurer Aviva.
Oh yeah,
Aviva.
As in the Aviva stadium.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which found that more than a third of adults in Britain said that they were not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
More than 2 in 5 were so tired that they had no energy to even exercise.
Don't you think that's something to do with as well, though, everybody's now obsession with mobile devices and the fact that, you're always looking at your phone or your iPad or something like that.
Yeah, could be.
And when, you're on your way into work even.
Yes.
I mean, one of the things I used to like to do on a train was sleep on a train.
Sleep on a train.
When I was on my way into work, if I was coming from a long way away.
Yes.
But now, nobody sleeps on trains because they're all staring into something.
That's right. It says Britons were closely followed in the exhaustion stakes by the Irish, the Canadians, the Americans, suggesting that the English-speaking nations have a culture of insomnia not shared by the Mediterranean countries.
Yeah.
India had the best record, with sleep often the first line of defence against the heat. Fewer than 1 in 10 Indians said they did not get enough sleep. That's amazing, that is. Because I thought in India, with it being so hot, it would be difficult to sleep. But I suppose if you were born and brought up there, you're used to it.
Well, indeed. And it depends as well. It's not, it depends which part of India you're in, and it's not hot everywhere all the year round.
Yeah, that's right.
Michael says this at the 2 mics. Sex doesn't weaken the legs. Porky's Rogerised more girls than Donald Trump, and the guy's still going. What a stallion.
Excuse me.
I think, Michael, if it's not weakening your legs immediately afterwards, then you're probably not doing it right.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Now then, just to keep going, it says that Mrs. Thatcher used to exist on 3 hours sleep a night.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing woman, wasn't she?
Yeah, but it didn't work out well for her in the end, did it?
No, it didn't, no. And it says here, taking time off is discouraged while the days of taking a full hour's lunch break are long gone. We're also famously bad at relaxing during our downtime. Right. If we're not checking work emails or taking work home with us, we're trying to whittle down our personal to-do lists.
And also everything's open here all the time.
Yes.
I was in Sicily recently, right, and Mallorca.
Yes.
And, both of those places, not everywhere is open all the time. They close in the afternoon for a couple of hours.
Yes.
Shops, so people can have a siesta.
Or
a riposa, as you called it. Whereas here, people just work all the time.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not surprised they're not getting enough sleep.
See, it gets serious. It says that it's important to make a good night's sleep a priority. Insufficient sleep can lead to a host of mental and physical health problems.
I'm sure that's true.
The study also found that poor sleep habits can be handed down to the next generation.
Really?
Only half the parents included in the study made sure their children got enough sleep. To make matters worse, parents regularly use late bedtimes as a reward for their children behaving properly.
Well, I can say that's very true from my perspective, because kids at the weekends particularly, they never want to go to bed.
Yeah, sure.
So if you say to them, look, you can stay up till 9 o'clock.
Yep.
You can watch a film or something like that. The film inevitably runs to 9:30.
Well, exactly,
sometimes it's 10 o'clock, and they don't really sleep. They're not quite old enough yet to sleep in.
So it's all a bit of emotional blackmail, really, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
It's a very difficult job, parenting.
Yes, I know.
Very tough. Yeah. This is Talk Sport. We've got loads coming up, including Sandro Minetti, who's our showbiz expert over in Hollywood. He's going to tell us about the Trump effect and much, much else. This is Talk Sport. Hey, by the way, speaking of cars, did you see Jaguar launched an electric car yesterday, the I-Pace?
Did they launch it in LA?
In LA, yeah.
That's
sort of a star-studded thing. Miranda Kerr was there.
It goes 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
That's not bad, is it? That is very quick.
But it's not for me. It's not for electric cars.
Well, I think electric cars are going to become the thing of the future, aren't they?
They're not, because they're so expensive. They'll
make them cheaper, won't they?
No, they won't. They can't mass produce them, because the thing is, the weight ratio to performance is so enormous, because the batteries have to be so huge to be able to store.
Yeah.
And you know...
but, if they're going to go that fast, 4 seconds, that's a pretty quick car.
Yeah, except that, mate, you can only go 310 miles on a full fuel. So now, you and I, right, we've got a show in Glasgow, right,
yes.
On December the 17th.
We have.
So we were, really tied up in knots on travel because we had shows to do and all that. We've sorted it out now. But one option was for us to drive.
Yes.
Now, we couldn't get to Glasgow in that Jaguar car, beautiful as it is, and, by the way, costing 60,000 quid, which is a very expensive car.
It is indeed.
Considering it's only a saloon. It's not a blinking
well, it's a sort of
4x4
type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of fastback thing. So what would we do? So we set off from London, 310
You'd have to
miles.
have 2 of them.
Yeah, you would, because 310 miles
Warrington
would only get you to the Lake District, okay?
Well, you have to park one in Warrington.
Well, that's what I mean.
Swap cars over.
Well, that's not very practical, is it?
It's not, no.
No, exactly.
Well, I guess if you're going to spend that kind of money on a car, it might not be the only car you have.
What they'll have to do is they'll have to develop the technology so that when you've got, 300 miles, okay, you're able to pull into a garage, and then you can't recharge the car because even speed recharging takes 2 hours, right, to recharge the battery to full. What you should be able to do is you should be able to have a device where you take the battery of your car out and replace it with a fully charged up battery from a store that goes in, shouldn't you?
Well, this is why what they call the hybrids are more popular, because you can actually drive those, only in towns on the electric power and then use petrol for the rest of it.
That's right, yeah.
How about this from Becky, who says, if Porky's got so many shower caps, why doesn't he have one in his man bag? He wore a supermarket plastic bag last week.
I did actually, but I don't carry shower caps around on a daily basis. I only ever carried them around when I knew that Rogerisation potential was on the good to high scale. You know what I mean?
And here's one from John who says, I put on the 2 mics as I can't sleep. Now I'm scared for my mental health and if I'm the only person to not do any Rogerisation at lunch.
Well, there you go, you see. These things happen. It was quite frequent, I have to say.
It was.
It was going on all over the place.
Well, it was. And I mean, I imagine not so much now because nobody's allowed out for lunch anymore. Brian says this, can we expect a 2 mics mannequin challenge anytime soon?
No.
I don't think so.
No, definitely not. It's come and gone and it's been done. And the last thing you should do is try and imitate what somebody else has done better than you.
Yes, indeed. And also, having looked at some of the Portuguese team doing it, some of the Spanish team doing it in the dressing room after the game yesterday, I don't think it's something that we should try and emulate, to be honest.
Yes, that's right. And it says here, Porky nicks shower caps, eh? I've also heard in the past him boasting about nicking slippers, shampoos, hotel towels. No wonder the room rates keep going up. Well, that's not true. I've never nicked a towel from a hotel.
Well, if you try and nick a towel from a hotel, they normally charge you.
Yeah, they will.
If there isn't one in there, it's like dressing gowns.
They just take it off your bill.
They
bung it on your bill.
Stick it on your credit card.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Now, I want to ask you about a big story that's in the motor racing world, right?
Okay.
Because you're a massive follower of Lewis Hamilton. I imagine. I don't know whether you're tipping him to win the final Grand Prix. And actually pip his mate Nico Rosberg in the final.
I am. That is my prediction.
In the Middle East. What about this Ron Dennis story? 35 years in charge of McLaren. He's been eased out. He's not very happy about it. He says he's disappointed and said that the grounds for his removal are entirely spurious.
Well, as I understand it, sort of briefly, Ron Dennis was in charge of McLaren for a very long time.
35 years.
That's right. But then in order to expand what they could do, he took in outside investors. Very wealthy people from, I think, China.
But they're an incredibly successful racing team, aren't they?
Well, they're not at the moment, are they? They have been, but they're not at the moment. If they were, then they'd be running races, and they're not winning races.
No, but I mean, they have. I mean, their history. In their history, I mean, there's pictures with Ayrton Senna. And all
I agree, but you could say the same about Williams, couldn't you? Because they've been very successful in the past, you know, and so have other teams like Ferrari. They're not doing anything at the moment, okay? So, but what I'm saying is, over the years that Ron has been in charge, taking in other investors. Now, he now has decided he's the best person to individually and solely, as I understand it, take McLaren back to the heights that they hit when Lewis Hamilton, for instance, won them his first World Championship.
And he discovered Lewis Hamilton, didn't he?
He discovered Lewis Hamilton when he was about 10 or something, and nurtured him all those years. But I think as I understand it, right, Mr. Dennis, he's gone and found outside investors to come in and buy out the shares of his other partners, who, by the way, I think are from the Middle East. And I think he's trying to bring in Chinese investors.
It says here, Dennis owns 25% of McLaren Group. Bahrain's Mumtalakat investment fund owns 50%. The remaining 25% is held by Dennis's longtime business partner, Mansour Ojay.
That's right.
A Saudi-born Frenchman.
Yeah.
But apparently his autocratic style, I mean, it sounds like he's an old-school guy who hasn't really dealt very well with the move to sort of modernity.
Well, it's not modernity. I think it's sharing responsibility for what used to be his own sort of train set, if you see what I mean.
Right.
So he wants to get back to the train set as it was under his control.
And what I'm saying is a guy who's not used to being told by other people this is what we're doing.
Yes.
That's
right.
What he hasn't liked.
That's right. And so what's happened is he's then presented this new plan to the board. Oh, look, I've just found somebody who wants to buy your shares in the company and give them to me, effectively, make him the boss again. And they said, no, we don't want that, thank you. We want to stay where we are. Actually, we've got a good idea, Ron. You're out. And they've pushed him out.
But it sounds very much like it's all been a bit bitter and nasty.
Well, it does,
His former friend, the French guy, seems to have fallen out with him as well.
Well, exactly.
And it's all a bit it's all a bit murky, really, isn't it?
That's right. Well, I mean, it's like you and I with the 2 mics, okay? Now, a multi-million-pound investor wants to come in and boost the business, all that kind of stuff. We say initially, that's great, we get a bit excited, and then we decide, hang on, we're the 2 mics. Why is this guy calling the shots?
Yeah.
So then we go and find a third or fourth party and say, look, you buy back that share and then give it to us, will you? That's the way it's sort of gone. You know what I mean?
Mapped all this out, haven't you?
I've got a whole plan.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Have you got anybody in mind?
Well,
for this
I can't say too much.
Okay, all right. As long as that's got to do with the secret project that's going on.
No, it's not. No, that secret project is government service.
Of McLaren's 20 titles, 17 came during his time.
Yeah, exactly.
Along with 158 of the team's 182 Grand Prix wins.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But is he just a yesterday's man then? Is that what you're saying? That he's not capable of running a modern racing team?
No, not at all. What's happened is that the size of the business has expanded so much that actually it's almost impossible now for one man to control the huge mass that a Formula One team is, and so that you have 2 or 3 shareholders, who all contribute. And I think his difficulty has been literally answering to others, where he used to do it all himself. He wants to bring it back, and the business is so huge, maybe they're saying you can't do it. It'd be literally like one man running Manchester United.
Yes,
you see what I mean?
It's a bit of a coup, really, it seems to me.
Yeah. Rather than having, a sales director, a team manager, a director of football, all this kind of stuff, I think he wants to be the individual and sole boss again, because he did it very well last time he was doing it.
And it says here that American Zach Brown is a leading commercial figure in Formula One. He's the most likely candidate to replace him.
Oh, I see.
I just wouldn't be surprised if Dennis, even though he's still got some kind of shareholding in some of the other McLaren businesses, like the McLaren Technology Group and McLaren Automotive.
Yes.
He might just go off and start his own racing team.
Well, I think he's hasn't he? Didn't he leave and did he or not? No, I think I'm thinking of Christian. What's his name?
I don't know.
Christian Horner, is it?
Horner?
Yeah,
yes.
I think so. Yeah. I think he's worked at several teams. But the guy that he's very similar to is in fact Sir Frank Williams. And I said the Williams team.
Yes.
They've had great successes. They've had world championships and all that. Now Sir Frank Williams is 74, and I think he's the sole owner of the team. But his daughter now has a lot to do with the day-to-day running,
right.
and he and Ron Dennis and Bernie Ecclestone, in charge of the business, were all known as the piranhas because when they were, the oligarchs
they just ran it all, didn't they?
Exactly, the oligarchs of the Formula One racing industry. They were known as the cutthroat sort of wheelers and dealers who made it all happen.
Exactly right. Now, how about this from Scott? He says, when about to indulge, said woman says to Porky, make sure you wear one, and he emerges with a shower cap. I'm in tears.
It's absolutely true.
I've never heard anything like that story.
No, it is true. Because you can see the have you ever been in a shower and tried to avoid your hair getting wet? It's almost impossible.
Well, not really.
Because it's the spray and all that. It bounces off the walls and the windows and all that kind of stuff. Very difficult. Always better to put a shower cap on. I used to wear one sometimes as well. Yes.
I don't think I've ever worn a shower cap.
Yeah, well, I did just for the cosmetic reason. I'm not wanting to get my hair wet, because people might have guessed what I was up to.
Really? Yes. So it was a sort of disguising scenario.
Yes.
I remember, I think once I went to some particular place, I think it was in Germany, actually. One of these spa resorts. And you weren't allowed to go into the water without a bathing cap.
Right.
Which I didn't have.
Oh, I see,
because they didn't want the hair getting into the sort of hot springs and all that
and also all the grease in your hair and all that, pollutes the water and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I had to go and buy a shower cap.
Yeah, well, that is bad news.
It was very bad news.
I remember once coming back from an assignation.
Oh, yeah.
Minus my socks.
Why? How come?
I don't know.
Do you remember that scene in A Touch of Class?
No.
Remember that film, right? Glenda Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Where the couple, George Seaton and Glenda Jackson, and they have this flat in Soho where they meet. Right. And he's out at the opera with his wife, and he's a very high-flying, like American diplomat.
I see.
And his wife is very high-flying as well. And he leaves the opera to go for a quickie, basically.
Yes.
At this flat in Soho. And he runs over there, and he runs back. And as he sits down, he puts his feet, he sort of crosses his legs, and his wife realises that he's wearing two different socks.
Oh, really?
Which he wasn't wearing when he left.
When he left, I see, yes.
So it was all a bit complicated.
Bit of a giveaway, that.
Yeah.
Bit like, that's just the maid bringing in my dinner jacket, darling.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So how come you
put
put your shoes on without your socks? Didn't you find them?
No, I just couldn't find the socks. I don't know. I think she stole them mischievously to embarrass me. But seriously, I had to go back without my socks on.
Where do you think they went?
I've no idea. I mean, it was just one of those life's mysteries. You know what I mean? They just disappeared.
Did you not find a place to buy any on the way back?
Well, there was no way. I mean, you had to get into a cab, didn't you, at the Tower Hotel, and get home in Fleet Street. What I was supposed to do then? Say, take me to the Man's Outfitters halfway down Fleet Street.
Well, there was a shop in Fleet Street. Do you remember the shirt shop, which was opposite Chancery Lane?
Yes, I do.
I used to buy a shirt there regularly.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I bought a suit there.
Never bought socks there.
No.
Well, I'd often on the way into work, I'd have to stop and buy a shirt and put it on as I got to the office. Otherwise, I was wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, it used to happen to me sometimes. I'm afraid.
Shocking, absolutely shocking. Anyway, coming up next, Sandra Manetti's here with a look at the showbiz world in Hollywood. Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. A week ago tonight, Mr. Parry, we were doing a 6-hour special, or a 5-hour special, I should say.
Indeed.
On the shocking scenario that resulted in Donald Trump becoming...
Well, was it a shocking scenario?
Well, it was, yeah, to everyone.
I mean, you said shocking as though you disapprove of it. Do you mean the most surprising election results?
When I say shocking, I don't mean I disapprove. I mean, it was shocking to almost everybody in the known world.
Yes,
who was
indeed.
not expecting Donald Trump to win.
Yes.
Including the pollsters, all of the media, most of the politicians, and certainly Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Sandro Minetti, of course, is our man with his eye on things on the West Coast. Let's find out what the temperature is over there at the moment. Sandro, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Well, greetings from the disunited states of Trump, where I am dodging the protesters as I speak.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it looked as though in the early days of last week, immediately after the result was announced, that, almost every night there was protests. Are they still going on? Because we're not really seeing much about those at the moment.
Not my president. That's the chant you hear 24/7 here in Los Angeles and other places. I'm not quite sure where all these people were on voting day, but certainly they're taking to the streets now. And I thought it would be a one-night protest, but it just continues and rumbles on. So that is the soundtrack of the nation at the moment.
All right. And I mean, presumably knowing the showbiz community as we do, most of the lovies will be in favour of getting him kicked out and getting somebody else in.
Absolutely. Now, I was hanging out with Oprah Winfrey the other day.
Oh, yes.
Circles in which I roll.
Very nice.
And she was telling me about how she spent election night. So she's watching the results come in on her exercise bike in front of the TV. And she says, I suddenly can't breathe. So I think, I must be exercising too hard. So she steps off the bike, and she still can't breathe. And she realizes it's the prospect of a Trump presidency, which is giving her an anxiety attack. So she calls her friend Ava DuVernay, the movie director, and calls her. And then all she hears down the other end of the line is heavy breathing, because her friend is also having a panic attack at the same time. So as a mutual support society, they stayed on the phone to each other as each other's emergency contact and watched the results of Florida come in, and then they wailed because then they knew it was over.
Yeah, I mean, these people need a bit of psychological help, don't they, or something like that. I mean, it's so ridiculous, isn't it, to say, I can't breathe. What I find odd, Sandro, is that when presidents get elected in the United States of the opposite political persuasion, you don't see, the hard right coming out protesting that Barack Obama hasn't actually done anything for the last 8 years. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a one-way traffic situation, isn't it?
You don't, but celebrities, have the loudest voices.
Yes.
People tend to listen to what they say, and those of us in the media give them a platform, which maybe they don't deserve, and so a lot of them consider them the spokespersons for the majority, and so their voices are very loud and protesting. And as you're right, they're all on the left, and they're all pretty much unhappy.
And of course, the thing is, Sandro, sorry to interrupt you there, the thing is that people in showbiz and people in Hollywood, they have to have a public perception that they're kind people, that they're nice people, that their hearts are broken by people suffering around the world. So, we've got to, the public have got to like us because they've got to come to our films. Therefore, we've got to pretend to be kind and nice to everybody in the world and dislike people who are practical and want to cut spending and all this kind of stuff.
Bit of a sweeping generalisation even for you, Mark.
Yes.
That one, but
yes.
Let me assure you, this view you have of Hollywood stars is they're not all two-faced monsters. There are, and I can name them on the fingers of at least one hand, but there are some nice people, among the movie stars.
Oh, I'm sure they're quite nice, but they just have to work on their PR business all the time to make sure the world remembers they are very, very nice people.
Highly paid publicists.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
Because I suppose in order to remain sort of box office, you don't wish to want to. It would be commercial suicide, presumably, for some of these guys to come out and say, "Actually, I'm really pleased Trump's now the president."
I love Putin.
Or I love Putin. Yeah, because people wouldn't go to their movies.
That's right.
But I was reading a piece in one of the tabloids over there, actually, Sandro, about how Ivanka Trump, I should say, has now been criticised because she was appearing in a 60 Minutes interview at the weekend.
She wants to be Czech ambassador.
Well, I don't know about that, but she was wearing a very expensive diamond and gold bangle worth $10,800, right, from her Ivanka Trump fine jewellery line.
That's right,
shortly after the interview was played on the television, a style alert went out to all sorts of people in the media saying you can buy this bracelet from this particular place, if you want one.
Amazing.
So, I mean, is there a worry that Trump is going to kind of commercialise the White House?
There's a worry that Trump is going to use the presidency as a part-time job.
Yeah.
He seems very connected to his main business empire and keeping that going. And he reminds me, especially with all these appointments that are going on over the last 48 hours, of a sort of hands-off CEO who's saying, OK, well, you just sort of run the company and I'll fly in from time to time. He's even said that he doesn't really want to bother with Air Force One. He's got his own jet, thank you.
Yes.
It's nicer. And he wants to spend part of the week in Trump Tower. So there is a sort of if you leave the politics out of it, you have to remember that this is not a sort of part-time hands-on job working as a volunteer for a non-profit. He's the leader of the free world.
Yeah.
And so maybe hopefully he'll take it a bit more seriously. But the children are very much in the spotlight, which they haven't shied away from because of course they were his advisors on The Apprentice. So, why shouldn't they be his advisors in the White House?
I think he has said he's not going to take his salary as president, hasn't he?
Has he?
I think he has,
He's taking a salary. It's $1. I mean,
that's right, $1.
Well, that was what Michael Bloomberg did, wasn't it, when he was mayor of New York?
Oh, was he?
Because he was so rich, there was no point in him taking any money out of the city. But
the job pays $400,000 a year, by the way, for the presidency. But he's just taking. I guess he couldn't take the pay drop, so he's just going to take it off.
I bet you he'll soon warm up to the idea of Air Force One once he gets on it for the first time.
Yeah.
Because a couple of colleagues of mine in Fleet Street got on it once, and it's like getting on, board the flying sort of
Starship
Queen
Enterprise.
Elizabeth II. Yeah, it's huge. Got operating theatres, cocktail bars, double bedrooms. Mr. Trump might want to avail himself of one of those occasionally.
You never know.
All this kind of stuff. So I think he'll change his mind on that one.
Well, what I'm looking forward to is his inevitable state visit to Buckingham Palace when he meets the Queen. I just imagine him getting there and saying, maybe I should buy this and put the sign Trump over the front of Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he's had Nigel Farage leading him in, won't he? Explaining to him what he can and can't do with the Queen. Now, let's talk about a couple of other stories as well, because I think many of us were not that surprised to see Bono winning the Woman of the Year award over there in Glamour magazine's awards.
Yes.
He was nominated last week. He's now won it to much derision.
Well, he has. I mean, he did admit that it was a joke himself, but he's got. I mean, to me, Bono is a genius. He can win any award that he likes, and well done Glamour magazine for giving it to him. And of course, he sort of uses it as a platform, as a profile for his issues. Going back to what we were talking before about celebrities and being in the spotlight. But there's lots of strange awards being handed out at the moment in Hollywood. One he didn't win was Sexiest Man Alive.
Yes,
that's gone to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
And does People magazine still have any kind of sway over there? I mean, when myself and Porky worked over there, People magazine was quite a big thing, as was the Inquirer and the Star and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But has that not all sort of slightly gone by the wayside now?
As print publications die, People has maintained its influence in terms of certain issues a year.
Right.
None bigger than Sexiest Man Alive. It's something that people still pay attention to very much. David Beckham won it last year. Channing Tatum before that. And I think Mike Parry won it in about 1968, right?
Yeah, something like that.
I have a history. It doesn't go back that far.
Even when he was that young, he wasn't sexy. I'm telling you.
What
about Taylor Swift? He's got great admiration for her because she's a very wealthy woman.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And she is the richest celebrity under the age of 30 and the highest paid person in show business. Well deserved. Money following the talent. $170 million she made last year. And to put that into perspective, she earned twice as much as Cristiano Ronaldo.
Wow.
Blimey.
So, yeah. So that's how much she's coining it in.
And I see Adele is in that list as well. I didn't realise until I looked at the list in some detail. Adele is only 28. and I thought she was kind of middle-aged. I'm not being unkind. Yeah,
but she's only been in the business for about the last 5 or 6 years.
But she looks middle-aged, if you see what I mean. She has that sort of middle-aged. Well, she doesn't look like Taylor Swift, does she? How old is Taylor Swift? 24, 25?
Taylor Swift is a little bit younger than that.
Yeah, but to say that Adele,
because she looks younger than Adele, I thought what you meant was her voice is so rich, it brings so much.
No, it's much more shallow than that.
Woman from the way she sings.
Much more shallow than that, Sandra.
No, without being unkind, I think Adele looks matronly, sort of matronly in the sort of long dresses she wears and that sort of stuff. Whereas
you're talking about her size, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, but Taylor Swift looks very young, very chic. And it's no wonder that Tom Hiddleston, the guy from The Night Manager, started trailing around the world after her, flying around on her private plane.
He only did that.
I'd have had a go at that.
No, he only did that because The Night Manager was being released in America. Do you not get that?
Well, of course I get that, but I mean, nevertheless, she had to cooperate with it, didn't she? It was as good for her.
You had a go at what? Taylor Swift or the private plane? I wasn't quite sure which one you meant.
Well, Taylor Swift had to accommodate Mr. Hiddleston while he was promoting his new show, but I mean, of course, it rubbed off on her as well, didn't it?
Did it?
Well, of course it does.
It certainly did, and regardless of what they both look like, they're both huge earners, and it just shows that there's much more money in music than there is in movies.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the highest paid woman from acting is Jennifer Lawrence,
right?
Who is down there as only the 12th highest earner in show business under the age of 30, but the highest one in all of movies, because there's no even today with like digital and the death of the CD sales, there's still no money like music money.
Well, the thing is, Sandra, it's all about the numbers game, isn't it? And you can sell a lot more records than people go and watch films. I mean, old Mike Graham here, we've just got our new video out. It's called The Two Mics Live, the DVD in Edinburgh. He's so hoping it'll rescue him from the financial chaos which is his life because of all the broken marriages and all that kind of stuff. And again, he's basing it on the idea it's the numbers game. I've just got to sort of help him shift, thousands of copies.
It's not actually called that.
I'm sure it's the way out of the poorhouse. Absolutely,
yeah, exactly.
Because, it's quality. How could it miss?
Well, that's absolutely true.
All about making it appealing to the millennials.
We'll send you a shipment out, Sandra. You can hawk them on the streets of LA
if you wouldn't mind.
How about we haven't got much time left, I'm afraid. Let's talk about Angelina Jolie. What's going on with her?
Well, Angelina Jolie, as you know, recently split from Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt has found a consoling arm thrown around his shoulders by Billy Bob Thornton, another of Angelina Jolie's, who said, come on, let's make a movie together. So he's pitching him a project, and they'd certainly have plenty to talk about on the set. Imagine their comparison notes, what it's like to be with Angelina. So, that's look out for that one. That's a movie I'd like to see.
Yeah, I don't think she'll be.
New film, Allied. Well, not so good. Should have had Billy Bob Thornton in it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, listen, Sandra, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Sandra Minetti there, live from Hollywood.
Indeed.
The Two Mics DVD, by the way, is called The Two Mics Live at Edinburgh.
That's what I said.
That's it. It's not the Two Mics video in Edinburgh Live DVD.
Oh, well, people know what I'm talking about. They know what I'm talking about.
Where can they get it?
We get it at the twomics.co.uk, which is the shop on our website.
Thank you very much. This is Talk
I got that right.
You did?
I did.
Here comes the dove. Here comes the dove. Here comes the dove. Here comes the dove.
Stop beating that bird, 'cause here comes the judge. Don't nobody budge, 'cause here comes the judge. Judge Shorty is presiding this day, and he don't take no stuff from nobody, no kind of way. Hey boy, take off that hat.
Talk Sport, we are the Two Mics. Of course, the Porky Quiz coming up on for Thursday night. Have you had any thoughts about the Porky Quiz this week yet?
I thought it was going to be on the British TV industry.
Oh, the one that, we were supposed to do. Yes, we did discuss that, didn't we?
British TV industry, terrestrial TV industry.
Yes.
Since the inception of the BBC in 1932.
Was it 32? Was it not before
36,
that?
36.
Was it 36?
36,
okay.
Yeah, 36.
All right, I'll talk to the independent quizmasters. They may have already prepared the quiz for
Well, indeed.
It was a couple of weeks ago.
Indeed.
Here's a text from Posty in Brum.
Oh, yeah.
Who says, hi, MG, I can't get the picture of a woman in the typing pool after lunch sitting at her desk with an elastic line across her forehead.
Well, funny enough, that sort of thing used to happen, You sort of, it wasn't across their forehead, it was usually that the hair seemed as though it had been like sort of bold, if you know what I mean.
Well, he never looks the same.
Never looks the same. Now, listen, I'm a romantic and all that kind of stuff.
I know.
And I do like to share, passionate moments and emotional moments with ladies in my life. But I've just been presented with a list of the 10 signs of love between you and your partner. And frankly, it is a past the sick bag Alice moment.
Is it really?
It is. I mean, I'm going to read a few of them to you. I think you'll feel the same as me.
Probably, yeah.
And for our millions of listeners out there, be ready to...
But are you telling me that, honestly, you've never felt any of these things? The 10 things?
I've felt some of them.
Really?
But this is how you express your love to your partner, okay?
Yeah.
You cook them their favourite meal.
Well, that's quite nice.
Cook them their favourite
What's wrong with that?
meal.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You make them a cup of tea without being asked.
Yes, I'd do that. Yeah. What's wrong? There's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that. No. You ask them constantly, are you okay?
No, see, that's definitely a bad one. You must never do that. Because if somebody, whichever way you look at that, right? Yeah. If you constantly ask a woman, "Are you okay?" You will end up getting a slap round the head.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And also, if they're not okay, they won't tell you anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And if somebody keeps asking me if I'm okay, I lose the plot.
Yeah. Don't forget the spontaneous hug. The spontaneous hug.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Well, very occasionally, I suppose. Yeah. Deliver a compliment.
Yes.
What are you supposed to say? Oh, that's a nice dress, darling. If you're going out, fine, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Or your hair looks great and all that. But what are you supposed to do? Go around all day, say, oh, I like your shoes.
What's wrong with
a nice handbag.
What's wrong with, as somebody passes you in the hallway, or as you're kind of exchanging whatever you do, you're going to clean your teeth, she's coming out, you say, you're looking particularly beautiful this morning, darling. What's wrong with that?
Well, that is past the sick bag Alice.
No, it isn't.
Time. It really is.
No, it's not.
That only happens to people in the first 36 hours of their relationship.
Incorrect.
It doesn't happen 3 years later.
No, that's not true.
No.
Well, this is why you've never had a relationship that lasted longer than about 25 minutes.
Well, here's the next one. This is a very modern one.
Yeah.
Constantly texting them to see how they are. Oh, yeah, great, yeah. And if they texted, how many times...
Alternatively, constantly texting them...
To find out where they are.
To find out where they are, or constantly texting them to ensure that they don't think you're up to no good.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you mean in your case?
Well, I'm not saying about my case.
Of course you are. You're talking from personal experience.
No, well, there used to be a thing, right?
Best form of defence is attack.
If you go below the radar, as Bobcat Bob would say, for a period of time, there were some women who wonder where you are.
Yes. So you send out messages to put them off the trail.
Well, it's like Twitter now. I mean, in the old days before Twitter and social media, nobody knew where you were.
Yeah.
Now, if I disappear from Twitter for 5 or 6 hours, people start going, where's he gone?
Well, you're blooderated or you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. Anyway, number 7, saying thank you for something on a regular basis.
Like, thank you for being you.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of thank you for, just being in my life. You know what I mean?
Well, there's nothing wrong with any of this. This is not past the sick bag time at all.
This is...
Well, what's your idea of being nice to somebody of the opposite sex?
Being respectful.
Buying them dinner.
Yes, that's right. Being respectful, providing for them, making sure that they feel confident and comfortable in the relationship, making
sure that they don't think that they're equal to you.
Making sure that they don't have any fears about the future of the relationship, all that kind of stuff, okay? But all this dopey stuff.
Yeah, but with regard to your kind of, seriousness about any relationship, that's not the case.
Yeah, but all this dopey stuff is all the first 36 hours stuff, isn't it?
You must have used some of those lines, surely.
Well, I might have done it literally on the first night or the first morning after or something like that. Here's the next one. Look, listening to them when they need to offload.
Yeah. That's a big problem between men and women now.
Oh, my God.
That's a big problem between men and women.
What, the offloading problem?
Yeah, because most men, right, are very straightforward.
Yes.
They're not very complicated.
Right.
So when a woman starts giving you a load of sort of abuse, not necessarily abuse about you, but just, offloading, as you call it.
Yes.
Men immediately think, well, there's a problem here, so I'll need to try and solve it. Because I've fallen into this trap many times. Yeah. And you think, well, they want me to do something about this, right? So I'll then start coming up with solutions to how to sort it all out. But then they say, well, actually, I don't want you to sort anything out. I just want to moan to you.
Yes, that's right.
I just want to moan, and you have to listen to me moaning.
So it's a whinge, you mean?
And for decades and decades and decades, I still never really got that right.
Right, okay. So you're calling women now professional whingers?
I'm not calling women professional whingers. What I'm saying is that quite often women will just quite like to have a moan about something, but they don't necessarily want you to act on it.
Ladies have often said to me, "Oh, you're a great listener."
That's rubbish.
As a compliment. Yeah.
I don't believe anyone of any sex has ever said to you, "You're a great listener."
have.
You don't even listen to me, and we sit across each other.
Hang on.
4 nights a week.
Hang on, I've stared across the table and said, tell me all about it, and then earnestly looked into her eyes and thought, how much longer is this going on?
You said, tell me all about it. I mean, last time we went out for dinner, if you'd said that to the woman you were with, tell me all about it. Next thing, you're climbing out the window at Pizza Express to sign somebody's autograph.
It's true. And here's the next one. Saying, I love you for no reason. Well, I mean, if you say, I love you for no reason.
Especially if you don't love them.
Exactly, exactly. The reason you don't say I love you for no reason is because you probably don't. So
that's a shocking admission from you.
Well, it could be.
Well, do you know how Piers Morgan's interviews always have that question in?
That's right.
Have you ever been in love?
Have you been in love? Yeah.
I've asked you that question before, and I think you've said no.
No, I don't think I've
been
said
in love.
No, that's not true.
Apart from with yourself.
That's not true, honestly. And
how many times have you been in love?
Well, I don't know. I've never counted it, but I mean, it's usual.
Okay, well, let me make it simple for you.
What?
How many women have you said I love you to?
Oh, lots.
Lots?
Lots, yeah.
And how many did you mean it to?
Very rarely. Very rarely. But, it's what I felt that...
You're just unbelievable.
No, I felt it was the appropriate thing to say at the time to keep things on an even keel, if you see what I mean.
What do you mean, on the stairs?
Well, I'm not saying.
Well...
Anyway, the last one is...
Who was the last woman you told I love you to?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
I bet you do.
I don't. Right. Now then, the last one is... sharing your food with them. Oh, yeah, that's great. Let's go and get a Chinese takeaway. You have that bit and I'll have this bit. Oh, here's my fish and chips. You have 12 chips and I'll have 12 chips. We'll have half the cod each.
What's wrong with that?
Ludicrous. Ludicrous.
You've never gone to a Chinese takeaway and got food to share with another person?
Well, of course I have, but in a different... But, they're talking here about eating off the same plate.
Well, why not?
Well, they're ridiculous. You go to get takeaway. I usually get twice as much stuff as I think I need,
right,
so that the person I'm dining with can have a pick of, many, many things they like, but don't take mine. You know what I mean?
So you just don't want them touching your food?
No, I don't. No, I have my own. I have my own special.
What about
foods.
a shared plate of something?
No, I don't want a shared plate of anything. I went out once with a lady, and she said, what I really love is, it's in a Chinese restaurant, or it might be an Indian, I can't remember. Yeah. And she said,
Such a romantic. Either one of the two, right? An Indian or a Chinese.
Yeah, she said, what I thought we'd do is we'd get, 8 or 10 dips and then just all dip into them together.
How about the
and I said, I don't want you dipping into my food.
Yeah. How about the shared starter?
The shared...
when you get a selection of starters.
I can't be bothered
even do that.
No, well, I say, look, if you want the shared starter, I'll get it for you. But you can have it all. I don't want to share it. I'm going to have something else.
Don't you think this would lead them to believe that you might be psychologically unbalanced?
No. Anyway, I've got an addendum to this report, and it's from a lady called Carol Ann Rice, life coach and author. She says, offering to cook a meal when someone is ill, remembering... Oh, God, when someone's ill.
Well, what do you do when someone's ill that you love?
I don't contact them. What's your problem?
Well, you're supposed to when you need.
Well, no, because it's a nuisance and it slows your day down, and it's like dragging a used tyre around on a rope behind you, because you're better off letting them get on with getting better without getting in the way.
All right.
It says. Remembering birthdays or special occasions, helping a friend declutter a spare room. So this woman gone mad. Helping a friend declutter a spare room.
Well, that's a friend now they're talking about, rather than a partner.
Or join them on a scary hospital appointment, which will help them psychologically adjust.
Oh,
yeah. No, I don't see that. Actually, one time when a lady friend of mine in New York was rather ill.
What, the New York Welcoming Committee?
It wasn't, actually. It was somebody else. And I actually left.
Time, by the way.
I actually left the office on 42nd Street at lunchtime. Went and got some chicken soup, which apparently is the cure for everything in America.
Of course it is, yeah.
And a couple of slices of pizza, and walked down to see her at lunchtime. Oh, she was overwhelmed. Yeah. Absolutely overwhelmed. How thoughtful I was and all that kind of stuff. You know.
Well, there you go. Well, so it was appreciated.
Yeah, but I was satiated with lust for this woman.
Oh, yeah.
She had a particularly
had you not
shapely...
done the deed at that point?
Well, yeah, but not as much as I'd like to have done. You know what I mean? Satiated by her figure.
Right. So that was your sort of the reason for you doing it. Yes. Motivation was entirely of the flesh.
Oh, absolutely. The motive was, get in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, such a
so to speak.
Unpleasant way of putting it. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Got one here from Becky who says, Porky's a shocking romantic. Matching shower caps, Weatherspoon's meal, and making me tea. It's not going to work on me, she says.
When did I ever talk about Weatherspoon's Weatherspoon meals. If I take a lady out, take her to a decent restaurant like Joe Allen or something.
Like Pizza Express?
No. Well, yes, sometimes, because that's where the lady wanted to go.
Okay.
Now, Luxury Lizzie says, I thought this was a family show, not a family planning one. Oh, we've shocked her. Isn't that terrible?
That is terrible.
Yeah.
Jacob says this, Porky's reaching new levels of selfishness. Just throw money at people and demand that they love you.
When did I ever do that? When did I ever do that?
Apparently, that's what people have deduced from what you just said.
And Lee says, I'm with you, Porky. All that love stuff is total tripe. Just get her a bunch of flowers or a box of chocks. Well, you see, I don't agree with that, Lee. I like being romantic, and I like treating a lady like a lady, and I like to make her feel good about herself, and I like her to, feel feminine in the company of a sort of macho guy like me and all that kind of stuff.
Macho?
Yeah. Right. But I just think that going around telling, asking, would you like a cup of tea, love? Oh, are you okay, love?
Have you never made a cup of tea for a woman?
No, never.
You never made a cup of tea for anyone, have you? I mean, you don't make cups of tea
very
for me
rarely.
Either. I think you made me one cup of tea in all the time that we've worked together.
Oh, and how many have you made me?
Very few.
None.
That's not entirely true.
None.
No, I think I've made you more than one.
That's fine. That's a good arrangement. You don't make my tea, I don't make yours. That's a very good arrangement, okay?
I don't mind that
we'll
arrangement.
Stick with that.
But what I'm saying is
that
if I'm ever making tea, I would always make you one.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
but you never make tea for yourself, so what's
I very
the point?
rarely do.
By the way, my back condition is chronic at the moment.
So you keep telling me.
Well,
how's it tonight? How does it feel? Better or worse?
I managed to find 20 minutes today, just sit in a very hot bath, hoping that might,
did that help?
Reconnect. It did for about the first 20 minutes, and unfortunately I had to get in my car, which of course, as you know, is a fastback, low-slung sports Mercedes.
Maybe you need to get a different car then.
Well, I might have to get a different seat or something. You're quite right.
Do you know when New York cab drivers used to wear those, used to have fitted to their seats, the kind of beads,
the bead thing,
which they said used to for people who drive a lot.
Yeah,
it was somehow
to help their back.
It would help their back. Yeah.
Well, my car is so sophisticated; it's got all sorts of lumbar pads in the seat, and you press buttons and they come out and go in and all that kind of stuff. I've never found the right combination, but what I have discovered is that the heel pads on my new slippers may have been too high.
Heel pads?
Yes, and that might have contributed.
Why have you got heels on your slippers?
Well, because you should elevate your feet about half an inch back to front.
You mean the back should be higher than the front?
Yes, that's right, by about half an inch to have perfect posture, you know what I mean? And it may well be that on my new slippers, the heel pads that I had put on them were just too high.
What do you mean the heel pads you had put on them?
Well, I have heel pads put on when I get new slippers.
What, you mean you buy a pair of slippers from where, for example? Sports Direct, presumably?
No, Marks and Spencer's.
Marks and Spencer's. And then you take them somewhere else?
No, then the housekeeper goes to Boots and gets the Doc Martin heel. No, is it Doc Martin?
Skull.
Dr. Skull, that's the one. Yeah, Doc Martin.
The DM
toe
slippers.
caps. Yeah, it does toe caps. Yeah,
the high ties, the lace ones that come all the way up.
No. Gets the Dr. Skull's heel pads and then attaches them onto the back of the slippers.
Oh right, so they go on the inside, do they?
Yeah, they go. Well, my slippers are open slippers. You see what I mean? It's only the front of them that are closed. You see what I mean? And they're green. The heel pads are green. Yeah, on black slippers.
Okay.
So you can see they're there. You know what I mean? And
but so they're on the inside then. Obviously, they're not on the underside, is what I mean.
Oh, no, you're right.
Not on the sole.
They're on the part of the slipper that your heel touches.
Yes, right.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what's the purpose of them, then?
Well, I've had them for years because it raises the posture of your body by about half an inch, and it's always helped.
With the outdoor slippers as well?
No, because I only wear the outdoor slippers for a few minutes at a time when I'm in the roof garden.
Yeah, but that may be the problem, because surely you need the heels to be the same height.
Well, I haven't been in the roof garden for a while because I've just recently had it renovated for the winter bulbs.
Renovated?
Yes.
Oh, well, how does that work?
Well, the housekeeper goes out and cuts away...
Seals everything up?
No, cuts away all the sort of loose ends on the flowers and all that, and trims them all back, and then plants the winter bulbs.
What about the bird bath?
The bird bath's still there. It froze over one day last week. Yeah, froze over.
It only got down to about 6 degrees, didn't it?
There was one morning I woke up and it was frozen.
Actually, I think I left here one morning. Yes. It was about 4.
That's right.
It's about as low as it got.
Well, no, it did freeze overnight because it's got its own microeconomic sort of temperature sort of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, so I think what's happened is I think that the actual cushion pad on the slippers was much higher than normal. And once we put the heel pads on, I think I was just walking around in the equivalent to sort of almost like high heels, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what might have done me in. What are you laughing for?
Well, just because, I mean, the amount of complications that you add into your life is quite remarkable.
No.
I mean, if you didn't bother adding in the heels,
I have
you
to.
might not have a problem.
I have to.
I mean, if I were you, I would make sure that my shoes and my slippers and my trainers and everything else that you wear on your feet is basically keeping your feet at the same elevation. Otherwise, you could have a massive problem with the inconsistency of height.
Well, I have to be aware of these things. That's all I can tell you.
Now, I spotted a story the other day and thought it might tickle your fancy.
Oh, yes.
It's from a Canadian man.
A Canadian man?
Canadian
you started pronouncing countries in a very strange way.
Why?
Canadian. And what was the one in the first?
Chile.
Chile and Canadian, eh?
I don't know what the result was in Chile, actually. I'll see if I can check that out.
Yeah.
Because Brazil were playing Peru, and I think Argentina were playing as well.
Right.
But this is a guy who's 89 years old, right?
Yes.
And he loves digging, is what he said. He owns a digger, and he's worked as a digger all of his life.
Sorry, how old is he?
He's 89.
89,
Yeah.
and he's still digging?
Yeah.
Well,
he owns
must have a very strong back.
Well, he owns a construction business. Well, no, he's got a JCB. He digs with a machine.
I see. Right, okay,
He doesn't dig things. 3-1, I'm told. Chile won, by the way.
Oh, okay,
Chile, depending on which way you want to pronounce it. Prince Edward Island,
right,
up in Canada.
Yes.
Owns a construction business, and he's been digging trenches and graves, because, in America, they tend to dig graves, and I think probably in a lot of places here.
It's a bit unsavoury, isn't it?
Why is it unsavoury?
Bring in a little digger and then dig a 6 foot down deep grave.
Well, it's a lot easier than digging it by hand.
Well, I think graves should be dug by hand. That's what grave diggers are for.
Yeah, anyway, that's why we don't have any anymore, because now they bring these little diggers in, right?
Well, Stuart used to be a grave digger.
I know he did, yeah. I know he did.
Oh, I'll tell you what about that. Tell you what, that's interesting. Because, of course, I helped in finding the Yorkshire Ripper and all that. There was a guy called Milton Howard. And he pitched,
Howard.
He was a photographer, and he pitched up in New York.
He didn't used to play for Tranmere.
No, he didn't used to play for Tranmere. Almost every photographer in the north of England, when I was working there, the Express, at some stage went over to New York to make their fortune, but then failed and came back. You know what I mean? He was one of them.
One or two of them stayed, but not many.
Yeah, not long, no.
Yeah.
But the news editor on the Express in Manchester sent Milton Howard and said, go and get a picture of the Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, that nobody else has got.
Right.
And to give him his due, he went away for 2 or 3 days, and he came back with a picture of Peter Sutcliffe digging a grave.
I remember that picture.
Yeah, that was his. He found it, and it was exclusive to the Express.
That was a collect in those days.
That was, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, this guy's said at several stages of his life that if he was ever going to reach 90, he would dig his own grave.
How weird is that?
And that's what he's done.
What a weird ambition.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I suppose you could imagine if that's what your speciality is. And apparently he turns 90 tomorrow.
Okay. And where's this guy? In Canada?
It's in Prince Edward Island in Canada.
Well, I'll tell you what, you would need a digger to dig a grave there, because the ground's frozen for about 10 months of the year.
Well, it doesn't look frozen in the pictures I'm looking at.
Well, it depends which part of Canada it is, because 2/3 of Canada is inside the Arctic Circle.
Well, I don't think Prince Edward Island's inside the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. So he says, there's nothing different for me to dig a grave. It's just natural. I've dug enough of them throughout my life. And he said, I saw the priest first, then the undertaker, got the measurements, and so he's basically got a hole ready for himself to be buried in.
God, how maudlin is that?
I think that's quite weird, isn't it?
Dreadful.
But it's not particularly maudlin.
You might as well just stand at the top of the grave and say to somebody, get a gun, shoot me, bang, and he falls in. Clint Eastwood style.
I think the point is that he's about to be, 90, so he doesn't think he's going to live that much longer.
Yes.
And so therefore what he's going to do is he's going to get a box made.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be put in it, and then he's already got his slot.
Is that right?
Now I can give you a few
like that at all.
Football results.
Is he going to put the coffin literally in the bottom of the grave?
Literally.
So no, with the lid off, and so that when he's had it, and so just throw me in, or just collapse on the edge of the grave.
No, he'll have a proper funeral, but he's already dug the grave, so nobody else has to do it for him.
Yes.
Chile won 3-1 against Uruguay.
Chile.
Argentina won 3-0 against Colombia. Ecuador won 3-0 against Venezuela.
Yeah.
And Bolivia won 1-0 against Paraguay.
Well, that's all fascinating.
Well, it's all part of the World Cup qualifiers.
Yes.
We spoke to Tim Vickery about it last night, and Brazil are playing Peru as we speak.
Yes, indeed.
So I'll keep you updated with all that as well. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Absolutely right. Now, I don't know if this would count as an Ask a Porky, but Luxury Lizzie has said, if you were to take me out and wine and dine me, what music would you sing and serenade me to get us in the mood? Surely you wouldn't want anyone serenading you out in public, would you?
No, not really. I could bring my banjo and I could play I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street to watch a certain little lady
the only problem with that is,
by.
very good impersonation of George Foreman. Yeah, all right. But unfortunately, you don't have a banjo, right? And you can't play one.
Yeah. Well, I could improvise.
You could improvise?
Yeah.
You could improvise with that tennis racket you did with Dirty Maggie May.
Well, you thought that was quite good, you say.
I did think it was
I
good.
was prepared to pass on that, but as you were a fan of it, I decided we'd keep it in. Now, listen, cats are rearing their ugly paws again.
Cats? What, evil cats, you mean?
Let me read this to you. I mean, this absolutely shocked me because I've always said that I think cats are evil. I think they have a life plan which is anti-humans. They don't like humans. I think they'd love to wipe humans off the face of the earth.
Why would they want to wipe humans off the face of the earth, though?
The cats are evil. They're nasty. They're vicious. They're calculating. They're scheming. And they really don't care for their owners at all. They just want the food.
Yeah, but
and then they want to go out and massacre birds and all this kind of stuff.
But they do know that the food provider is humans, so I wouldn't have thought they'd want to get rid of that.
Yeah, but in some cases they go off and get it themselves, don't they? They go and get rats, mice and birds. Anyway, listen to this.
Go on.
It's Saturday night in the accident and emergency unit. Another stabbing victim hurries past on a trolley, but and this is from a victim of a cat bite, okay? But I began to feel a bit of a fraud, seeking help for a mere swollen hand. It was only a tiny cat bite after all. I expect you think I'm making a fuss. Anyway, I said to the doctor, but my apologetic manner soon turned to alarm. The swollen hand was taken very seriously indeed. The doctor gave me blood tests, examination by another junior doctor, and then a senior colleague who told me, I'm sorry, but you won't be going home tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you could get septicemia, couldn't you, for something like that? 4
in 5 animal bites are minor and seldom require medical attention, but a bite to the hand from a cat is the most risky place to be bitten because the joints and tendons are close to the surface, and if bacteria from a cat's mouth, a bite penetration of the joint or sheath around the tendon, trouble can spread rapidly. An astonishing 80% of cat bites to the hand become infected, and according to the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, a cat bite injury, particularly to the hand, can be devastating in terms of infection and permanent disability if not treated immediately and appropriately.
Literally biting the hand that feeds?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Did he explain whose cat bit him, or was it his own?
This is just one example of why you've got to be very, very careful if a cat bites you, OK?
So what did he have then? Did he have septicemia?
Well, I'm going to read on. This is a doctor now. This is from my medical journals, and it's a doctor talking about patients who've had cat bites. Okay. He said, I had one patient whose index finger no longer bends because the cartilage in the knuckle was destroyed within 24 hours because of late treatment.
What? But how was it destroyed, though?
Well, it's destroyed by infection.
By infection, not by the cat's bite?
Yes.
Not by the teeth?
By the bacteria in the cat's teeth, which infected the hand. OK?
Right.
Another patient had to have a finger amputated, right?
Right.
This is after getting a cat bite, you have your finger taken off, right? Another patient had to have a finger amputated. Worst case scenarios, when the infection is confined to the hand, are tendon rupture, chronic infection, and the destroying of the joint and the bone.
Well, there was a woman who scraped her hand in the garden, wasn't there, a couple of months ago, who ended up dying because of the poisonous bacteria that got into her bloodstream.
And this is how bad it gets. It says where the infection spreads to the whole body, there is a serious danger of sepsis. Right?
Sepsis, as in septicemia.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Poison.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose everybody knows if you get bitten by an animal, you have to be very careful and you should go to the hospital straight away.
Of course
if you get bitten by a dog or a cat or a rat or a squirrel.
Listen to this.
I mean, anything that's out there which is, or a fox particularly. I saw a fox yesterday morning when I got home.
Yes.
As they're all over the place now, foxes, right? Yeah. And this one, I mean, you quite often see them, and they're very sort of tame as regards the public. Yes. They don't run away or anything. I mean, this one actually stopped in the middle of the road and just stared at my car.
Yeah, they do that
as I was driving down towards it. And it wasn't moving.
No.
It was not moving.
Did you flash your lights?
Yeah,
That's what I did to get it out the way.
And eventually it moved.
Yeah.
But it was not frightened at all.
No. See what you've just asked. The answer is here again in the same report. While dogs are responsible for 60 to 90% of bites, cat bites are twice as likely to become infected. It's not because cats are necessarily dirtier, because all pets' mouths carry bacteria, but it's due to the nature of the bite. Dogs tend to cause a more open wound with tearing and tissue damage, while cats, with their sharp, narrow teeth, create deep puncture wounds, injecting bacteria right into the tissue.
Dear me.
See, so this is what it's all about now.
Yeah, but it doesn't make them evil. I mean, they don't bite you for no reason, cats, do they?
I think they do.
I don't believe that.
I think they do.
No.
I think you've got to watch it very, very carefully.
My sister used to have a cat that was quite old, and it got a bit sort of grumpy in its old age.
Yeah.
And it would sort of occasionally scratch.
Yes.
If it didn't like something that you'd done.
Yes.
But it never actually bit you. I mean, most domestic cats will not bite you.
Well, they do if you quite rightly, as you quite rightly say, if they get out of order or they think they're threatened.
That's what I mean. You have to do something in order to make them bite you.
Yes, yeah. It says here, specialist hand plastic surgeons are now kept busy on a regular basis, responsible for treating animal bites, right? The wounds are often washed out, but there is still need to repair the skin damage. Many bites require surgery under general anaesthetic, and it's become, a big medical problem.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that. Yeah. But I think that, in the scheme of things, is if you go to a hospital on any given night, you're not going to find loads of people lining up saying, I've been bit by a cat.
Well, it says here, you see, because there are things like feral cats, okay? Feral. So it says here, you have to understand cat behaviour if you are a pet keeper, right?
A pet keeper.
And what you have to do is, your behaviour is designed to avoid receiving a bite. It's best to avoid touching strays, as they may be anxious.
Yeah, well, you never touch a stray cat.
Well, hang on.
You would never go near a stray cat.
Well, it says it's best not to touch strays because they can be anxious, and that's when a cat can bite. And if a cat is distressed, don't push it away with your hand. Try turning your back. And the other things is, if you want to get a cat's attention at any time, never do it with your finger. Like, you might tickle a dog under its chin.
Yes.
Never do that with a cat, because it might bite you.
Well, with any... I mean,
do it with some sort of toy or something.
Well, I say this to my kids, you don't go... Any animal that you don't know, whether it be a dog or a cat, even if it's belonging to someone that you think you know quite well, you don't go anywhere near them, really, because, you don't know how they're going to react to things.
I couldn't bear cats. I mean, I've had a girlfriend who've had cats, and I just have to get out of the house. I can't stand
Really?
them. Oh, they just freak me out.
Any excuse. Well, what about that one that used to come into your roof garden? Does that one no longer appear?
No, I made sure that the people who owned that, the neighbours who owned it, put spiked guards up along the edge of their fence so the cat can't get over the fence.
So it looks like a prison now.
Yes, absolutely, unless they take it downstairs and release it, which they do now. And what they used to do is...
What do you mean they release it downstairs?
Well, what they used to do is they used to let the cat out of the door into the roof garden, which connected with mine on a diagonal sort of point.
Is that where there's a litter tray out there or something?
No, I think the litter tray's inside. I think the litter tray must be inside. And it's quite weird to see a cat padding literally across the top of your fence in a penthouse because you think, where's that come from?
Yeah.
So anyway, I made a complaint. I was quite nice about it,
I'm sure you were.
Heavy about that. And I said, you can't have this. I said, I'm sorry, cats, carry all sorts of things. Don't want it, and please sort it out. So, in fairness, I suggested they put a spiked rail along the top of their fence.
Possible way.
Yeah. Otherwise, I was going to make a complaint, to the landlords of the property, because it's freehold property and all that kind of stuff. It's leasehold property and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, the cat doesn't need to go outside either. I mean, I had a cat in New York, right, and never went outside.
Well, that's cruel.
It's not cruel. It's a house cat. I lived in an apartment which is 5 floors up in my apartment. I lived on 36th Street.
You had a cat? I don't remember you having a cat there.
Well, there was always a cat there, but it just didn't like people.
I stayed there with you. There was never a
You never
cat.
stayed there.
I did, didn't I?
I don't think so. Well, if you did, you wouldn't have seen him. I mean, we had somebody come and stay there when we were away once.
Yeah.
And we said, just remember to feed the cat. And he stayed there for a week, this guy.
Yeah.
And he left us a note afterwards saying, P.S., are you sure you've got a cat?
Right.
Because the cat never came out.
Really?
Yeah, because
Very
the cat
odd.
thought there was somebody there that she didn't like or didn't know.
Yeah.
But she was very happy. The first time she ever went outside was when we moved to the place on 30th Street.
Yes.
The place with the garden.
Yes.
And we let her out for the first time into the garden.
Did you chase the rats?
No, well, it was quite amusing to watch because as she put her paws on the earth,
Yeah.
she'd never walked on anything like that before that actually gave into pressure. And she was totally freaked out by it.
Very odd to have a house cat. But anyway, what I was going to say was, what was I talking about? I've forgotten now.
Cats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. So now they take it downstairs.
Or they take it for a walk or something?
No, they just let it out. They take it downstairs about 7:30 every night, and they put it out the door. And, the next morning they let it back in again. It's out all night.
So the cat wanders around all night?
Yeah. Yeah, it does, yeah.
So that's not good, because it'll get eaten by a fox or something.
Well, unless they go down and, they rendezvous with it at 10:30 or something like that and bring it back in.
They must do.
No, I think they do. Yeah, I think they do.
I don't think they want to leave it out all night.
I don't think they let it out all night.
Although, funnily enough, I've seen a fox and a cat sort of standing off against one another in my street.
Right, okay.
And the cat chased the fox away.
Yeah, I've seen that happen as well. Or at least I've heard it happen.
Yeah.
You can hear terrible screaming noises at night sometimes in the country, and it's animals fighting each other. It's horrible.
Right. Or sometimes having sex, actually.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Foxes having sex, a terrible noise.
Yeah.
Ian says
I think it's with cats as well, because they have all sorts of terrible spindles on its sexual extremities.
That's the fox you're thinking of.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah.
Ian says this: I love a bird bath with a microeconomic temperature thing. That's from Muggsy in Accrington. And David says, I had terrible lower back pain of years and years ago, just after I got a new vehicle. It turned out to be the positioning of the seat.
Is that right? Yeah, that could be.
So maybe the seat is something you should think about.
Well, no, I've had the car now nearly a year, and it's never caused me a problem before. So
yeah, but it could be a cumulative effect, though.
Well, maybe. It's worth looking at, certainly. I'm not dismissing it. You're quite right. Yes.
Coming up next is Ask Porky. Okay. Really good questions this week.
Yes.
Lots of them posted on our Facebook page called The Two Mics, if you haven't found it yet. Yes. And tweeted at us as well. So we're going to get straight to it, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Try and give us as short an answer, brief as possible, because we want to get through a lot of them.
To the point,
and
obviously.
To the point, yes, indeed. Yes. Robert has sent this in on Facebook. Would Porky consider going into the jungle with Ant and Dec? And if so, what type of trial would make him scream, I'm a celebrity?
Yeah. I don't think I would, actually. I have thought about it in the past because, who knows, one of these days it might come along. But I just couldn't put any of those creepy crawly insects in my mouth. No. And I couldn't be in a glass sort of cage where they tip them all over you.
No.
And quite frankly, it's so unpleasant. In fact, Joe Cole, the footballer, I've done a bit of charity work with, his wife went into it, Keely, beautiful girl. And, what she described to me about it was just horrendous. So the answer's no.
Definitely no. Izzy in Australia says this: my husband has fallen out with his family for being a bladderator and a terrible parent. Should he bother trying to make up with them?
It's always better to try and restore relationships with your parents, no matter how badly they go. You only get one set of parents. It's a very, very valuable relationship in life, and some people I know, literally, it's the rock and the basis of their whole life. And terribly upset when their parents die and dad passes away and all that kind of stuff. So I would say work on it as hard as you possibly can. But in the end, if you find it's just not working because you don't get on with your parents, there's no point in flogging a dead horse.
Indeed. John on Facebook says, Dear Porky, I've been asked to do a 24-hour shift at work on New Year's Eve, but I'm scared to tell the wife. She loves New Year's Eve. I can't stand it. I love getting bladderated on New Year's Day instead. Yeah. How can I break it to her gently?
What you've got to do is, first of all, is it worthwhile money-wise to do it? Because that's the only reason people should really work New Year's Eve. Secondly, you've got to consider your wife's feeling, because if it's a big night of the year for her, I don't think you should ruin it by saying, I'm not going to be here. That would just let her down terribly. You've got to do the talking from now on. You could come to a compromise. You could say, look, I'm going to pay for you to go out with the girls on New Year's Eve. You have a great time. And then you get home and you have a few hours sleep, and then you take her for a great lunch on New Year's Day. I like New Year's Day. I think it's a great day because it's a public bank holiday, and people are usually in a very good mood.
Martin says this on Twitter: I'm at university studying for a foundation degree in healthcare. Which medical journals would you recommend studying?
Well, you should study the ones recommended by your lecturers because they'll know better. But I mean, we all know what the leading medical journal in this country is called, The Lancet. The one over in America is the one from New England.
The New England Journal of Medicine.
New England Journal of Medicine. Yeah. Make sure you look at those first. But there'll be plenty more information these days on the internet, which you should keep abreast of. That's how medicine is moving forward.
Laura says this on Facebook: Dear Porky, I'm off to New York next week with my gorgeous friend Andrea. Yeah. What is the one thing we should do while we are there?
One thing I would do if you're going to Manhattan is do the Circle Line, and that sounds like a sort of roundabout. It sounds like a fairground ride. It sounds like something you do on a train. You don't. It's on a boat, and you go right round Manhattan. You go under all the bridges. You see all the big buildings, and there's a fantastic narrator who tells you everything about the history of the city. There's a bar on board, so plenty of time for bladderation. It lasts about 3 hours, and when you get off, there's an array of lovely restaurants there on the pier where the boat comes in. It's honestly. It's a very worthwhile thing to do.
Luke says this: do you think the railway should be nationalised?
I personally do think the railway should be renationalised. I mean, I'm the sort of guy who believes in private enterprise and not terribly fond of mixed economies. I think the private investment in companies usually works, but it doesn't work on railways. Railways is a national. It should be for a national benefit. It should work for everybody. Some lines which are not profitable have to be subsidised by those that are, and that can only be done in a government situation. The only industry in America which is nationalised is Amtrak, which is their railway system. We should do the same.
Here's one from Rodney who says, with the Christmas party season coming around, can Paul give me the best advice on any do's and don'ts to get through the night?
Well, it's not getting through the night, it's getting through the nights. Now, when I was a younger man, I accepted every invitation to every party around Christmas, and I would literally be out on the Bladderation Trail from around about the 5th of December to probably the 5th of January. And, of course, it wears you down, and you smash yourself up, you bladderate to, an unacceptable degree, and you'll be letting people down and then letting yourselves down. What you do is get the invitations in, never go to 2 on successive nights. And if you say, oh, well, but there were 2 great parties, well, tough luck. You've got to sacrifice one. Always get a breather night in between 2 do's, and if necessary, 2 breather nights. Remember that 1 great party in 3 nights is much better than literally pumping yourself back up into drinking mode night after night after night, not really enjoying it.
Indeed. Now, I don't know whether you'll be able to rise to this one. DeMarcus says, Sean Dyche bumped into Bobcat Bob in the fruit and veg aisle of the local supermarket.
Yes.
Can you imagine how the conversation would go?
Well, Bobcat Bob would say, I'm just as pushing the envelope. I'm filling my envelope. I'm filling it full of plums, boy. Gotcha now. Whereas Sean Dyche was... I like something a bit tastier. I work up here in Burnley, and I'm telling you, I've got Bramley apples by the dozen, just like my players.
That's very good. Johnny says, do you think Oasis will reform, and have you seen the new film Oasis Supersonic? It's great.
No, I haven't, but I'm hoping that for Christmas I will get Oasis Supersonic, and I will get 8 days a week, from members of my family to watch on Boxing Day or something like that. I don't think Oasis will ever reform. I was told by somebody who knows them, knows the inside of it pretty well, who said that Noel Gallagher is so dismissive now of his brother, not his talent as a singer, not his talent as a band member, but so dismissive of his attitude towards being a team member. And Noel's grown more cynical about it and his ability to make an effort than ever. It doesn't get better as time goes on. It doesn't heal, it gets worse. And by the way, they're in the mid-40s now, and that is, it's never going to be the same again. And I think the feeling is it's best left alone so that the legend can survive.
Here's one from White. It's a bit of a dilemma for you. If your penthouse flat was on fire and you had to choose between saving your celeb photos or your watch collection, which would you save?
Well, you try and save both, obviously, but I mean, I think I'd save the celeb photos first, because you can buy watches again, but you can't buy those photos. That's why I was so upset that I lost my programme collection a few years ago when I was moving house, because although I can go to programme fairs and buy more programmes, they're not the ones that I bought when I went to those games. They're irreplaceable, really. I mean, Ringo Starr once said when his house went up in flames over in LA that, he lost things like his gold discs and all that kind of stuff. He said he didn't mind a bit losing the house, because, of course, he's a very wealthy man anyway, but losing things like that, which are irreplaceable.
You never replace.
You never replace them, and it stays with you then for the rest of your life. It's a regret.
Indeed. Robert says this: Dear Mr. Porky Parry, I'm addicted to the Two Mics podcast. It's so bad that I don't listen to anything else all day, every day. It's starting to take over my life. What can I do to get away from my addiction?
You don't need to. It's a very good policy, that, because believe it or not, within the mirth and the frivolity and the occasional seriousness that MG and I get to talk about and allude to, it's very good for you. It puts you in a good mood. It educates. It stimulates. it teaches you about the way life can spill out, even when times are hard. I would just get on with it and not worry.
Here's one from Rich who says, due to a new hotel acquisition in Edinburgh, I will need to spend at least a week, a month sorting it out. Porky, do you have any recommendations whilst in Old Riki?
Well, as you know, Mike and I did 3 days up there recently. Mike's experienced Edinburgh a lot more than I have over the years. Done a couple of golf tournaments and that kind of stuff. All I would say is it's a very, very sophisticated town, Edinburgh. There is plenty to do day and night, and you won't be short of stimulation. You won't get bored or anything like that, and I wish you luck with your project.
OK, here's one from the Two Mikes FC, who very kindly sent us a bottle of Bollinger the other day.
That's very kindly, thank you.
Is it more important to talk or to listen? Philosophical one for you.
No, it's important to do both. If you're just a listener, then you're not really contributing anything in return, so you're a taker and not a giver. And if you're a talker, then you should be responding to what other people have said to you. So I would say listen first, talk later.
Andy says this, it's already been touched upon, but I'd like to go further. Should FIFA concentrate more on their own in-house problems of reputation rather than questioning our annual show of respect to our fallen, instead of being as underprepared and less informed on the subject matter as you on quiz night? Yeah,
but they're never going to, because the problem is that they are a complete autocracy, so they self-govern. And when you self-govern, you don't actually abolish yourself or destroy yourself. It just perpetuates. And until an outside agency, like, for instance, was it the FBI or the CIA? I can't remember. No, it was US Attorney General, actually. US Attorney's Office, US Attorney General decided to get involved. FIFA was never going to be shaken up. It is shaken up now, and I think the outcome of the prosecutions, which are still undergoing by the US authorities, will have a big say in the future of the organisation.
Rob says this, hey, Porky, is Nigel Farage trying to tease the government because he didn't get a role to play in the Brexit negotiations?
No, I don't think he's trying to tease anybody. He's got he has an association with America that's been going on for 20 years. He likes American politics. He's gone over there and he's made contacts. When he was over there during the Trump election campaign, he bumped into a group of people who were Trump supporters who'd heard about him and Brexit, and they invited him to meet Donald Trump, and he did. The failure's in the British government. The British ambassador to America decided not to build bridges between the British government and Donald Trump because they thought he had no chance of winning. That vacuum, as it opened up, was filled by Nigel Farage.
Oliver says this, I'm studying law at university, but I'm not really enjoying it. Should I follow the dough or make a change?
If you're not enjoying it, you should make a change, because the whole idea of going to university is that on the 3-year or 4-year plan, you might be doing a sandwich course, you can see where you're going. You can see what the object of your intensely hard work to gain a degree or something is all designed for. If you can't, if it's one of those, ridiculous situations where somebody's told you, oh, don't worry about what sort of degree you get, university teaches you to think, and then you can decide what to do at the end of it, I would leave, because it's a pointless existence.
Nick says this, just got engaged to my girlfriend who's Canadian. Do we have the wedding here in England or in Canada?
Well, it depends where her parents are and her family. You've got to remember, as the groom, you've got to concede to what your wife-to-be's circumstances are, because any gentleman would say, no, I'm going to make it more accommodating for you and make sure that more members of your family are there than mine. So if she's Canadian and her family is still there, and by the way, Canada's a great country, I suggest you go over there and get married. It'll be something to talk about in 20 years' time.
Be exotic, although I suppose some members of your own family then might get a bit sort of troubled.
Yeah,
by
but they'll have to go. It's only
there.
Once in a lifetime. They'd have to just find the resources to go there and support you.
Indeed. That was the Ask Porky. Of course, there was lots and lots more questions that we couldn't get to, so if we haven't got to yours, many apologies. We will try and save some of them for next week, perhaps, and get the answers that you require then. But thank you very much for everybody posting them on Facebook and sending them into Twitter. This is TalkSport. Becky says, I'm shocked, says Mike Parry. I thought Adele was middle-aged. She's only 28. She says at least she didn't think she was dead.
I think we've read that one out before.
Did we?
I think we did indeed.
Sure?
Yeah.
I don't think we did. Look at the Light says, does Porky's operus mondi, I presume you mean modus operandi, include taking ladies to graveyards for fish and chips, or do they recuse?
No, they don't. And funny you should say that, by the way. You talk about graveyards, and that just made me remember. I read an interview about Chrissie Hynde.
Oh, yeah.
Now, she's had a very colourful life. She's married to Ray Davies.
I think she's a terrific woman.
I think she's a terrific woman. She's written some terrific music, hasn't she?
She was married
songs.
to Jim Kerr as well, wasn't
Jim Kerr, she's married to. I think she's married to Ray Davies.
Funnily enough, she used to live in Belsize Park. The only reason I know that is
Yeah.
when I first came back from America
Yes.
and was living in my sister's place in Belsize Park, which
Yes,
you know well.
I do, yeah.
There was a gym just down the road,
Right.
which my then wife joined. And
Right.
She was a member of that same gym.
Really?
So they must have lived somewhere around there.
I see, that's very
I
interesting.
used to see her a couple of times a week.
And she wrote that fantastic song, Back on the Chain
Back
Gang,
on the
didn't
Chain
she?
Gang, yeah.
Which was brilliant. But one of the things she does, and I think she must have had a new album out or something, I read this, she likes wandering around graveyards, and she says that she talks to ghostly presences in the graveyard.
What, in the graveyard?
In the graveyard, yeah.
So
yeah.
you've never seen her in one of your graveyards?
No, because I only go to one, and I don't go to it at night. It's part of a walk I go through on Surrey, and you come to a church, and it's a shortcut to go through the graveyard, and then when you get back out onto the street, there's a lovely fish and chip shop, and I sometimes buy the fish and chips, go back, sit in the graveyard, and eat my fish and chips.
Well, I must say, I find graveyards strangely compelling.
Yes.
Only because of what's in there, really, in terms of, you look at the headstones and the history and all of that.
Yeah.
When I lived down in Sussex, when I first moved back down to England,
Yes.
there was a lovely old church in the wood, it was called, with a graveyard attached, and some of the gravestones there had been there for a couple of 100 years.
Oh, I like reading them.
And you read the inscription.
It's amazing.
And the tragic ones where you see the little child's grave and all that. I mean,
It says.
I mean, you can spend time. I don't think there's anything ghoulish about it. I think it's quite an interesting sort of way of tracking, in some ways, our history as well.
Yeah, but she actually says there are presences there that she can detect.
Really?
She says, you may be surprised to learn that when I'm alone, I like to visit graveyards and I commune with the dead. She says, you're not going to be on a date and say, hey, let's pop into the local graveyard. But I would, and that's probably why I'm not on a date at the moment. It's not a popular thing to do, and I don't like romantic comedies. So there you go.
Right.
But
sort of a gothic thing to do, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so. She says, I took some words for a song from what you've just said, the inscription on one of the gravestones. Remember me as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I.
Yes.
As I am now, so you must be. Prepare for death and follow me, which she incorporated into a song.
I remember that song.
Yeah, right. Yeah. She says, as long as I can remember, I've liked wandering through graveyards. They're peaceful, they're quiet, no one else is there, and they're like nature reserves. I like communion with ghostly presences and the dead and tend to read what's on the stones. Some people don't go into graveyards at all, but I do whenever I can. I love churches too. If I see a church anywhere, I'll always go in and meditate. I like the sanctuary.
Well, I mean, I would agree with her about graveyards during the day, but I think at night they take on a slightly more sinister
I
kind of look.
I totally
you wouldn't want
agree.
to go in one at night, would you?
I totally agree. You may have been to this one. She says, I took a tour of the Kensal Green graveyard.
Oh,
right?
I know, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
do you?
a really big one, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I have a picture of Anthony Trollope's grave. Who was Anthony Trollope?
Well, he was a writer, wasn't he?
Was he a poet or something? Yeah. Which I can now take to my book club next time and say, look, I've got a picture of Anthony Trollope's grave.
Yeah.
In fact, Miranda Richardson, who is in my group, that must be her book club.
Her book club,
Yeah, was there too. So I can't brag about seeing Trollope's grave to her, but I can brag about knowing Miranda Richardson to you. I'm a shameless name dropper.
Yeah, well, that's like if you go into Hampstead Graveyard, which is
Karl
just down
Marx,
the bottom of... No, that's Highgate Cemetery.
Oh, yeah, okay.
West where Karl Marx is. But Rex Harrison is buried in quite a small graveyard in Hampstead.
Oh, right.
Along with Kay Kendall, who was his wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
how interesting. But,
you don't sound like you mean that.
No, it is interesting.
Rex Harrison was quite an interesting guy.
He was Dr. Dolittle, wasn't he?
He was indeed.
Yeah, that's right. No, what I was going to say is that the one I go through is particularly poignant because there's an organisation which repair gravestones. And quite often when you go through a graveyard, you see somebody's been there and they've actually put markers on the gravestones which are dangerous.
Oh, right.
Because they can fall on children.
They can fall, yeah.
Yeah, they can.
Very heavy, some of them, aren't
There's
they?
some that are very heavy, and there is I don't know what it is. It's an official body which monitor graveyards, and they mark these, and if they're not changed within 3 months, they will remove the gravestone if they think it's dangerous. Yeah, if they think it's leaning.
But they won't replace it. You mean?
No, they won't replace it. No, not they try and contact the family sometimes, and it could be from 100 years ago.
It may not be easy to do.
But there's another organisation which is also associated to the graveyards we have on the continent through the pursuit
like
of
the war graves.
The war graves, particularly like poignant at this time of the year because we've just had Remembrance Sunday.
Northern France.
Well, I'm thinking of northern France. I'm thinking of the Somme and places like that. Now, people who look after that, their influence also extends to this country.
Right.
So you will often see, and I do often see, brand new white gravestones on the graves of young men who died at the start of the Second World War.
Okay.
And they bring tears to your eyes. It says something like,
well, especially when you see their ages, right?
21 and a Spitfire pilot, 19 and a member of the crew of a Lancaster bomber, 18 and killed on the D-Day invasion, one of the first soldiers ashore and all this kind of stuff. Absolutely poignant, absolutely poignant.
There's also nothing more, I think, sort of affecting than seeing the rows and rows of as they have them in France, or they have in Arlington Cemetery, where the graves are exactly the same.
I totally agree.
Somehow that's more effective. In a way, it's more effective because you realise just the thousands of people.
Not only the thousands of people, but what I think is amazingly poignant about it is that those men stood together shoulder to shoulder in a ditch somewhere or a trench or on a battlefield, and now they lie together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really, really nice about military graveyards, that they're not alone, you know what I mean? Because that fantastic poem, about, there will forever be, a corner of a field, a battlefield somewhere, forever England, and all that kind of stuff is rather lonely, isn't it? That you died in battle, you fell there, and that's where you rested, and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Now you'll recognise this picture, which has been tweeted to us by Caricature or Carrick Allen. It's partly because it's got the name on the side, but have a look at that.
Look at this. PJ Clark's.
PJ Clark.
Yes, exactly. Why has somebody sent you a picture of that?
Just said, dear mates, this was always a good bar, as you will know. And funnily enough, one of the questions we didn't get to read out on the Porky, Ask Porky, there was somebody who said that he's going over to New York, or I think his wife and mother are going over to New York, and can you recommend a good place for him to go for a drink? I mean, that's as good a place as any to go for a drink, isn't it? PJ Clark's.
Absolutely. What's
and great burgers as well.
Which street is
it? It's on 3rd Avenue, around about sort of 55th.
That's it. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Before 57th Street.
Do you know what? I was reading some of these volumes the other day, some historical volumes of, and I can't remember who it was now. It might have been that guy Tacky, who writes a column in the
Tacky,
Spectator.
Does he still do that?
He still does it, yeah.
He must be quite old now.
I think he's in his higher 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
Incredibly active
quite
guy.
Waspish.
Oh, waspish. Been around for years, wealthy, inherited money from his Greek shipping father and all that kind of stuff. I think it was him, but it might have been help. Anyway, he referred to a meeting a few years ago in New York and a lunch at Maxwell Plum.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I loved Maxwell Plum.
Yeah, see, I remember
it was
that
one of my
place,
favourite restaurants.
That was on 2nd, wasn't it?
It was on 2nd, and then it just suddenly closed down. Do you remember?
Well, you see, I didn't go there a lot. I went there once or twice, but I think you lived quite near it at one point.
I lived quite near to it, and I used to go to Sunday brunch there.
Yeah.
And it was great, The tablecloths were white linen, they were beautiful, the waiters were dressed immaculately.
It was very quintessentially New York, wasn't it?
Very, very quintessential New York. And I tell you who used to use it when he first had an American girlfriend, Mrs. Thatcher's son, Mark Thatcher.
Oh, is that right?
And he used to take his, his blinking protection squad in with him, and they always had 2 tables and all that. He was
it was sort of the beginning of the Upper East Side there as well, wasn't
it? Yes, it was actually,
Which was always a very sort of... I mean, I lived up there on 81st Street for a while, but didn't actually like it as much as it was very sort of preppy and quite well off.
I lived
and all
77th, so it was just round the corner from Maxwell Plum. I just don't know why it closed down, because it was always packed. It was always very prosperous. Yeah. Anything could have happened. There could have been a racketeering problem or something. I don't know. But
or they might have had their rents suddenly raised
they might have
to
done,
a ridiculous degree.
They might have done, or they might have, not paid, the equivalent of the VAT bill or something like that. Yeah, who knows?
Did you see, by the way, this week this weekend, I think, on Twitter, there was one of our listeners who's been in New York taking pictures of places where we used to go.
Oh, yes.
And took a picture of, sent one out and said to me, do you recognise this? And it was 42nd Street, where the Daily News building
I did.
was. And then he took one of the Daily News buildings as well.
But he mentioned a bar, which wasn't... Oh, no, this was in Fleet Street, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
That was Gaucho's, yeah.
Yeah, Gaucho's. Where's that, then?
Well, that's in Fleet Street. It's sort of up towards Chancery Lane end.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like an Argentinian steakhouse, which wasn't there.
It wasn't
when
there.
we were there.
No, it wasn't, no.
But now, we can't finish the show without me making a small announcement, which I have to make in fairness.
Indeed.
I'm not sure I don't think she's quite awake yet, but it's my daughter's birthday today.
Well, very happy birthday, Emma. We love you, baby.
Don't call her baby.
Well, I mean, why not? I'm a godfather.
You're not a godfather. But anyway, so she'll be having a lovely day. It's one of these... She's very spoiled, actually. She's already had 2 celebrations already.
Excellent.
And she's having another celebration the weekend, and I'm going to take her out for dinner a bit later on tonight.
Excellent.
So, but don't worry, there will be nothing other than bladderation in moderation.
Yes.
You would have to say.
Yes.
And then tomorrow, of course, Porky Vision. Now, given the secret nature of your day,
yes,
you may or may not have had plans or the ability to watch too much. But
well,
I mean, unfortunately, the yoke lays heavily on your
well,
shoulders.
Well, don't worry.
So you can't get out of it.
There will be enough for me to present another sparkling, and I mean sparkling, interesting and deeply researched Porky Vision tomorrow night.
Tremendous.
No problem at all.
Well, we should look forward to that.
Yeah.
I think you've done very well tonight, actually, considering what you've been doing. This
Indeed.
is Talk Sport. A couple of tweets about Belsize Park have come in, Porky.
Yes.
One from Droll, who says,
Yes.
yes, that gym, Belsize Park Gardens. I was a member there too when we lived in Gospel Oak, full of celebs pretending to work out.
Really?
And
all they were
David
doing
says...
was put themselves about.
Yeah, well, maybe. And MG says, I used to live in Belsize Park, walks on the heath, a pint of the Washington and stuck in the lift at the station.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
Don't remember the Washington, do you?
The Washington, yeah, I remember it very well.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
So,
right.
Coming up a little bit later on, it's the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast at 6 o'clock. I shall bid you farewell, Mr. Parry.
Indeed.
So you can get some well-earned sleep.
Exactly.
Between now and more of the Secret Project.
I'm back on the Secret Project early this morning.
Can't mention.
Let me read this to you. I mean, this absolutely shocked me because I've always said that I think cats are evil. I think they have a life plan which is anti-humans. They don't like humans. I think they'd love to wipe humans off the face of the earth.
Why would they want to wipe humans off the face of the earth, though?
The cats are evil. They're nasty. They're vicious. They're calculating. They're scheming. And they really don't care for their owners at all. They just want the food.
Yeah, but
and then they want to go out